Afternoon, everybody. Let's go ahead and begin our closed session portion of tonight's City Council meeting for September 16, 2020. It's approximately 5:30 p.m. and I'll ask the city clerk please to call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes, here.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Here.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Here.
Councilmember Charette,
Here.
Councilmember Nickel,
Here.
Councilmember Richard,
Here.
Councilmember Movejo,
Here.
and Mayor Valdivia.
Here. Okay, thank you, Ms. City Clerk. Are there any comments for closed session tonight?
There are not any comments for closed session.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we'll dismiss all of our staff.
Starting, I'll let you know as soon as we're on.
Buddy, let's go ahead and begin tonight's council meeting. Today is September 16, 2020. The time is approximately 7 p.m. Call to order this joint regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council, the Mayor and City Council acting as successor agency to the redevelopment agency of the City of San Bernardino. This time I will ask Councilman Charette. Councilman Charette, sir, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? If you all stand.
I'm happy to. I don't have a flag nearby, but I think I can see one in your background. So we all face whatever flag we can and join me as we pledge to the nation.
I pledge allegiance
Again, I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it. At this time, I will ask the city clerk, please, to call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra. She stepped away for a moment. Councilmember Figueroa,
Here.
Councilmember Charette,
Here.
Councilmember Nickel,
Here.
Councilmember Richard,
Here.
Councilmember Movejo,
Here.
and Mayor Valdivia.
Thank you, Ms. City Clerk. I appreciate it. Thank you. At this time, we will move on to our presentation portion of tonight's meeting. I would like to offer this proclamation of the Mayor City Council recognizing and honoring Rail Safety Week. Whereas the city and state of California is a leader in supporting highway, rail grade crossing and pedestrian safety programs, and whereas highway grade crossing crashes during 2019 resulted in 48 persons being killed and another 64 injured in the state of California, and whereas pedestrian railroad trespass incidents on railroad property during 2019 resulted in 141 persons killed and another 95 injured in the state of California, and whereas Operation Lifesaver is the foremost public information and educational program dedicated to preventing highway rail grade crossing crashes and the pedestrian railroad trespass incidents, and whereas this important observance should lead to greater safety within our city and safety awareness and a reduction in highway rail grade crossing crashes and pedestrian railroad incidents. Now, therefore, the City of San Bernardino Mayor and City Council do hereby proclaim the week of September 21st through 27th, 2020 as Rail Safety Week. I want to urge all of our San Bernardino City residents, including our children, and citizens and businesses to please join us to raise awareness of the importance of rail safety and encourage all to participate in the activities to reduce crossing crashes and pedestrian railroad trespass incidents during this week and throughout the year. It's presented this 16th day of September 2020, presented by the mayor. I want to also commend our San Bernardino Police Department for recently receiving a grant And council members, you remember that about 6 weeks ago, we passed that for increased enforcement along our rail lines. I will be out there on the rails with our police department and ensuring that I get a firsthand look at some of the issues that confront our city, especially along Metrolink, as some of these entry points to our community provide a viable opportunity for us to reduce some of those incidents along the rail line. Our second proclamation is for prostate cancer awareness. This is a proclamation, Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, the month of September 2020. Whereas prostate cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer in men and second leading cause of cancer deaths in men, the American Cancer Society estimates there will be 191,930 new cases of prostate cancer in the United States in 2020, resulting in an estimated 33,330 deaths. And whereas early prostate cancer usually has no symptoms, and studies suggest familial predisposition may be responsible for 5 to 10% of the disease cases. Late stage prostate cancer commonly spreads to the bones, which can cause pain in the hips, spine, ribs, or other areas in the body. And whereas the 5-year survival rate approaches 100% when prostate cancer is diagnosed and treated early, but drops to 31% when it spreads to the other parts of the body. The rapid reduction in prostate cancer mortality is attributed to early detection through PSA testing and advancement in treatment. And whereas the American Cancer Society recommends that men should have an opportunity to make an informed decision about whether to be tested for prostate cancer based on the personal values and preferences. Now, therefore, the City of San Bernardino, I as Mayor and City Council do hereby proclaim the month of September 2020 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. I encourage all San Bernardino men and our residents and citizens and businesses to join our community efforts to increase awareness of the importance for men to make an informed decision with their personal health care provider regarding early detection and testing for prostate cancer. Together, we can express the importance of prostate cancer awareness and encourage all of our citizens here in the city of San Bernardino to participate in the educational support, awareness, and prevention during the month of September and throughout the year. Presented this 16th day of September 2020. This is a little odd, but we thank American Cancer Society, and I want to encourage all of our minority communities, especially African American and Latino males, to get early pre-screened. It's very important. Beginning some recommendations as soon as 45 years of age. So I want to encourage you men to seek your own advice from your personal physician, and please be aware. At this time, I will turn it over to our city manager as we welcome our new city manager, Rob Field, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Ledoux.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very happy to welcome our new city manager. This doesn't happen very often when you have one city manager introducing a new city manager, but it gives me great delight to know that this city is going to be in good hands when I go away on October 4th. Rob Fields comes to us, and I don't have your bio right in front of me, Rob. I wasn't prepared for this, but he comes to us with over 20 years experience in economic development from the County of Riverside. And as you know, the council appointed him at the last council meeting. While he officially starts on Monday, the 21st, we've already started the dialogue. He's been in the office every day. I feel like I know him already really well, and he's been meeting with the department heads and the council members, and I think he's going to do a great job for you moving this city forward. And like I said, I leave feeling much better that he's in your hands.
Very good. Mr. Field, would you like to make some comments?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Terry for being so gracious. I mean, it's just been, I have been coming in this week to meet with department heads and with members of the council just to kind of try to get a head start on things, because it's a daunting set of tasks that are ahead of us, but I can't wait to dig in. So it's an impressive group that you have working with you, and really enjoyed getting to know the council members as well. I'm really ready to get started, but it would not be nearly as smooth a transition if it not for Terry and all the work that she and the other staff up here on the third floor have been doing. So appreciate the opportunity. And as I said, ready to dig in.
Thank you very much, Mr. Phil. We welcome you on behalf of the city council. We welcome you. It's a delight to see a smooth transition occur. And I want to read this proclamation on behalf of the mayor and city council on Mrs. Terry Ledoux, our city manager, on her retirement, dated the 16th day of September 2020. Recognizing her years of public service from August 6, 1996 to October 3rd of 2020. I'd like to read this, Terry, and I really do appreciate your service to our community. You started here, and you're ending your career here, and we wish you the best. Whereas Terry Ledoux has worked in municipal services for 25 years, including 21 years in the city of San Bernardino, beginning her career in 1996 working as an intern in the office of the city manager. During which time with the city, Terry advanced to various leadership positions, including assistant to the city manager and director of administrative services for the city of San Bernardino Economic Development Agency. In 2013, Terry left the city of San Bernardino for a brief period of time, serving as the assistant to the city manager in the cities of both Huntington Beach and the city of Laverne. In October 2017, Terry returned to the city of San Bernardino to serve as the assistant city manager and then was appointed to the city manager position on July 1, 2019. Whereas we honor and recognize Terry's exemplary leadership abilities and her contributions to the greater good and the greater community of San Bernardino, we do appreciate her continuously exemplifying devotion to duty while displaying a willingness to serve the public as well as her fellow employees and her other agencies in a courteous and professional manner. We commend Terry for accepting the challenge in her distinguished career as our city manager. Whereas Terry is highly regarded by the City Hall family, including colleagues, elected officials, department heads, and employees for her loyalty, wisdom, friendship, leadership, and immense knowledge of the city, Terry's sense of duty and commitment to the city is inspirational to all who had the honor and privilege of working with her. Whereas in celebration and gratitude of her valued public service, we want to send our deep appreciation to you, Terry. We thank you for all your outstanding leadership and professionalism. You will be greatly missed by all. The city of San Bernardino commends you for your dedication and commitment to excellence. We wish you well, and we congratulate you and offer you our best wishes of success in all of your future endeavors, and we wish you a long and happy retirement. Dated the 16th day of September, and this is a nice plaque. We do appreciate you, Terry.
Thank you, Mayor. That really means a lot. It made me very emotional. I'm very happy to be ending my career where I started it. I actually started in 1995 as a free intern, but I think the records show 96 because that's when I started making $10 an hour. So I appreciate all of you. I appreciate this opportunity. It's been very meaningful, but I could not have done it without the people I share this screen with, and I am eternally grateful. I will always be available for anything you need moving forward. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We'll open it up to council members. Councilman Charette.
Thank you, and I appreciate being able to be the first to speak because I think I can say that I've worked and known Terry the longest of all of us because she was here when I came back in 2009, and so I've appreciated all that she's done for our community. I consider you a friend, not just a colleague, Terry. I've appreciated your counsel and your support and working with you and knowing you and all the ways that we've known each other. So again, I wish you the very best on your retirement, and I don't think you're gonna be in the state of California for too long. I think you've already got a ticket to Idaho, don't you? You don't have to answer that, but I know you're anxious for retirement, and you deserve it, and I appreciate your service to the city, and I appreciate your friendship and working with you. And Rob, I want to say that I've heard nothing but good things from a lot of people that are very pleased with our hire of you, and I'm looking forward to great things from you. I've had the pleasure of meeting with you for a couple of hours, and looking forward to many more meetings and working together as we turn the page and go take the next steps forward. And it's been said so many times, and everyone says it, and I believe it. Sometimes it's hard, but there are so many opportunities in the city of San Bernardino, and we're so lucky for our location and for so many assets that we have. And I look forward to working with you to support you and work as we support and provide the services that our 20,000 constituents both require and deserve and need. So we are public servants, and that's what we do. We shouldn't forget that we are serving the public, and they're out there paying our salaries and asking us to give them what they deserve. So Rob, welcome aboard. I'm looking forward to working with you. And Terry, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Councilman. Are any other comments? All right. Terry, you've been a delight to work with. I appreciate you, and we wish you well. You're going to be here for about 3 more weeks, so you're not leaving too fast.
That's right. Rob and I will be working, as we have been for the last week. We'll be working together the next couple of weeks as well.
I love to see you guys work. Rob, we're excited to have you aboard, and congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Let's move on to our closed session report. Ms. City Attorney, would you please provide any report out?
Yes, Mayor, Council, and members of the public, we did have closed session this evening. Several cases of pending litigation and 1 matter of anticipated litigation. We do not have any reportable action from our discussions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. This time we'll recognize our city clerk to play any of the recorded public comments. We did receive multiple letters, and you have that, staff, in your hands, but I'll turn it over to our city clerk for public comments.
Thank you. I just want to make an announcement that we received 95 written comments for items number 6 regarding the sidewalk vending, 22 comments for item number 15, and 3 comments for items not on the agenda. And I'll proceed to the recorded comments.
Hi, my name is Laurel Tashetta, and I'm a community member. I would like to make a comment for the open session meeting. I'm calling about agenda item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to section 5.30.120 and various sections of chapter 8.1 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliant carts. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you are proposing only further criminalize but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you for your time.
Hello, I leave this message for open session agenda item number 6. My name is Zoe Macbeth, and I am a community member calling about the support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to section 53120, various sections of chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Waiting for a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliant carts. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure they needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you're proposing only further criminalize but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you. Hi, my name is Nadia Solis, and I'm a community member in San Bernardino. I'm calling about agenda item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to section 530.120 and various sections of chapter 801 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliant carts. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you're proposing only further criminalize but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Angel. My item is regarding support for the reuse of the funds for parking lot improvements at Lido Creek Park. On tonight's agenda, item number 5 on your public meeting for September 16th. You will begin the discussion on what to do with the remaining funds for park improvements. I urge the City Council to continue good progress at Lido Creek Park and support the pavement and the rehabilitation of Lido Creek Park parking lots. Thank you.
My name is Kader Maldonado, and I am a community member calling about item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt code amendment to section 530120 and various sections of chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to complaint carts. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you're proposing not only further criminalize, but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist, and therefore it makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you so much. Decriminalize street vending. Bye-bye.
Hi, I am Liliana Reyes, a community member calling about agenda item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to investigate in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to section 530.120 and various sections of chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading to a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to complaint carts. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you are proposing only further criminalize but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist, and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you and goodbye.
My name is Katie Levin, and I am a community member calling about agenda item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education reach before you adopt the code amendment to section 530.120 and various sections of chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliant carts. They need investments, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy, because street vendors contribute a lot of positive change to the community that isn't just economy-based, it's community-based. The policy changes you are proposing only further criminalize street vendors. The proper cart required to be in compliance with your proposed item does not exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.
Hi, I'm making a comment for open session agenda item number 6. My name is Tanya. I'm a resident of San Bernardino living in Chino. I'm calling about agenda item 6 in support of your street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to section 530.120 and various sections of chapter 801. That will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking a vendor to fail. Vendors do not have access to complaint cards. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you are proposing only further to criminalize but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist, and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you. Goodbye. Hi, I'm making a comment for open session agenda item number 6. My name is Tanya. I'm a resident of San Bernardino living in Chino. I'm calling.
Hello, my name is Anais. I'm a community member and I'm calling about agenda item number 6. I'm in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code. Section 530.120 and various sections of the chapter 8.01 that are only going to further criminalize street vendors. If you lead a program with enforcement, you're asking it to fail. Please support our street vendors. Support their income. Stop criminalizing them.
Hello, my name is Ariana, and I am a resident of San Bernardino living in Ward 4. Calling about agenda item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to section 530.120 and various sections of chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. They're just trying to make a living. They're trying to survive. They don't need this. They need support. They need nothing but our support. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliant cards. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they can also continue to contribute to our economy. It's basic. It makes sense. The policy changes you are proposing only further criminalize, but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Please, please give them your support. That's all they need. They need your support. They don't need to be criminalized for just trying to survive, especially in this economy, especially now during a pandemic.
This is Carol Donnelly. I'm a resident of San Bernardino. Hello, Mayor and Council. Politics never end here in San Bernardino, but I guess they don't end anywhere in the U.S., do they, with what we're going through lately? After several grueling months of the do-nothing city council setting their sights on our mayor, the report is finally out. The results are several of the allegations were unsubstantiated. Yep, the complaints were largely unfounded and nothing more than hearsay. And almost 95% of the findings are bad boss allegations and lacking credibility for the public to even be swayed. There were no findings or evidence of him engaging inappropriately in anything sexual. I'm fully supportive of Mayor Valdivia and his efforts to bring jobs to our city and revive and awaken our sleepy town of San Bernardino. This community is super lucky to have him as their mayor. And there is so much potential in San Bernardino. We could have the richest, most beautiful, safest city in the United States, but it takes strong leadership. And leadership can't do it themselves. They need the backing of the council and the residents. I strongly urge you as a city council to move in a cohesive, oriented action. Do what city council is supposed to do. Support the mayor and his vision to bring jobs and create an atmosphere of economic, bring crime rates down. You have a lot of work to do. Please get going and stop the nitpicking and focus on what you were chosen to do. With San Bernardino isn't going to get any better unless we all get together and work on the important things. And what's going on right now is taking precedence over really what we should be focusing on. Too many things to deal with. We don't need this. All right. Thank you so much.
Yes, my name is Greg Ramirez. I live at 186 East 18th Street, San Bernardino, California. Right behind my house is an alleyway. For the last 6 weeks, we've been having problems with homeless people living in the alleyway. We constantly call the police. The police have been rude about contacting them. I've had many comments made, such as the homeless people could live there as long as they're there because it's public property and there's nothing we can do about it. These homeless people go and they bury their feces in the alleyway. There are kids that cannot play in their backyard because of this and the smell. We constantly call up as a group, the neighbors, and we just don't get anything done. So I called up the council office, and they took all the report and everything, and I'm pretty sure that they'll help me versus the police, because as a neighborhood, we're just so disappointed with the police that they cannot help us. And these homeless people are able to get away with doing the things they do and disturbing our neighborhood. Like I said, the kids are afraid to go in their backyard. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, my name is Bubbles Solorzano. I live on 198 East 18th Street. I have an alley in the back, and I have homeless invading our property. So we've been calling the cops, and the cops are not doing anything. So please, we need help. We need to get rid of these people. It smells so bad, and my kids can't even go to the backyard because they're there. So if you guys could do anything about it, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eva Magana, and I'm a community member calling about Agenda Item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I'm asking that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to Section 53120 in various sections of Chapter 8.01. That will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to their cards. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy, being that you guys like to just always throw them tickets. The policy changes you are proposing only further criminalize but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. You guys are just playing this own game where you write the rules and then change them every 5 seconds and people can't keep up. And that's the stories that I'm hearing. So do something about this. Stop criminalizing our workers. Let them contribute to the community that they want to contribute to the community without feeling attacked. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sochi Carrillo, living in San Bernardino County. I am calling about the agenda item 6, support of our street vendors community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt a code amendment to Section 5.30.120 and Virgil section of Chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with endorsement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to complete cards. They need investments, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they can contribute to continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you for proposing only further criminalize but fail to properly address the real problems, which is the proper card requirements to be in compliance does not exist and therefore make it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you so much.
Hello, I believe this message is for private session. I just would like to know if the city is working on any kind of traffic calming measures for Valencia. Valencia between 30th and 40th is a very, very important recreational area to many of the residents in San Bernardino. Many families from this neighborhood and other neighborhoods walk in the area with their animals and their children, and often the traffic is unbelievably fast on that street. People often pass on the right, and they often pass using the middle turn lane. I would love to see some traffic calming measures put into this area, or some kind of, unfortunately, some kind of, I think they're called speed trap, but officers positioned in this on the side streets of Valencia so that we can perhaps issue citations to people who are driving so incredibly fast on Valencia for the safety and well-being of the residents who enjoy walking up and down Valencia between 30th and 40th. Thank you for allowing me the public comment.
My name is Jim Tomami, and thank you for that open session. Mayor, the investigation found that you said inappropriate things. Please resign. For the city of San Bernardino, resign now. This is no joke. Bye.
Hi, my name is Linda Collier, and I live in the 6th Ward. And this is for the open session meeting tonight. This is for the mayor and the city council. We need someone to rehire city workers and code enforcement. Our city is looking very trashed out. You need to start spending some money and making our city look like it should. We have brand new police cars running around. So our city should look just as nice. So please, use some of our city money to clean up our city. Thank you.
Shirley Harlan. This is for the open session, the mayor's veto. Follow the money. I realize how uninformed I was about the money candidates receive and spend. So I started a search after hearing the San Bernardino City Council members discuss their ordinance for no campaign contribution limits requirements for elected official candidates within the city of San Bernardino at their meeting on September 2nd. Beginning on January 1st, 2021, Assembly Bill AB 571 will go into effect. No contributions more than $4,700 from an individual per calorie year unless a city establish its own ordinance. So next, I went to the Register of Voters website to find out about contributions to candidates. It is not easy to locate, but it is there. On the site in My Elections Gateway, what a wealth of information for you personally. Your registration, history, voting districts, and My Elected Official campaign finance records. Click and sign in with your last name, enter your numeric residence address and birth date, and a screen asks if this is you. And if it is, answer yes. Look at the heading elected officials and candidates and click on My Search for Campaign Finance Records. The public portal contains financial information provided by candidates and committees. It can answer questions about who is contributing money, who is receiving money, and how it is being spent. The forms, the FPPC forms filled out are, they're number 460, 496, 497, 461, and 465. The information goes back to November 6, 2001, general election. Here is the League of Women Voters League's position in brief on money in politics. Campaign finance regulations should enhance political equality for all citizens, ensure transparency, protect representative democracy from distortion by big money, and combat corruption and undue influence in government. The League supports public financing, full disclosure.
That comment exceeded the 3 minutes. Moving on to the next one.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Keith Wisniewski. I live on the north end of San Bernardino. I'm just calling in regard that there's been too many shootings and killings out here in San Bernardino lately, and I think we need to do something about it. And Council, if I were you, I would highly recommend you ask the mayor to step down from his duties if you guys want to continue your career. And Mr. Mayor Valdivia, if you love San Bernardino like you say you do, please step down and do us all a favor and save us all, us taxpayers, millions of dollars. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed evening.
Hi, I'm calling to leave a public comment about the Nicholson Park Community Center. This park is within my community.
Hello, this is Dr. Dorothy Garcia, San Bernardino resident, and I have a public comment for the open session. And it is item number 8 on the agenda of September 16th tonight, and here is my comment. At the council meeting of September 2nd, the majority of you, after much discussion, voted to accept the state's limit of $4,700 per individual contributor per year. Many of us applauded that decision. Then the mayor, who was not present at the meeting, vetoed your decision. We all know why. Tonight you are revisiting that issue. Please do not let the mayor or anyone else convince you to vote for unlimited contributions. He is the one who has benefited from the current practice. During the years 2018 and 2019, he received many contributions at $5,000 or more. The total of those was $408,000 between June of 2018 and December of 2019. Many of those contributions were in the $10,000 range, but one donor contributed as much as $45,000 in 3 donations between June and October of 2018. Several of the donors were importers from China. What was promised to these donors for that large contribution? Many of the donors were marketing firms and developers. Others are towing companies. Again, what was the quid pro quo or the pay for play? Thank you and good night.
Yes, my name is Lynn Ware. I'm a lifelong resident of San Bernardino and a community advocate. I would like to register my opinions on 2 issues before the council in open session tonight. First, I'm very much opposed to continuing to allow sidewalk street vendors to sell food and other items such as flowers in complete disregard for the city ordinance adopted last year. The 6-month grace period to educate these vendors and allow them time to obtain proper permits is long overdue. It is time to incorporate consequences into the ordinance and to implement enforcement strategies immediately. Secondly, we have a serious concern about reversing the pay-to-play environment in this city and county. So I implore you to adopt campaign contribution limits tonight. Please do not veto it, Mayor. We need campaign contribution limitations. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alexander Soto, and I'm a committee member calling about Agenda Item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to Section 5.3.120 and various sections of Chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliant cards. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you are proposing only further criminalizes and fails to properly address the real problem, which is the proper card required to be in compliance does not exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Please work with our street vendors. They are vital in our community, and we need them, and I would always go and support them financially. Just thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Joseph Escobar. I am a resident of San Bernardino County, living in Fontana. I'm calling about Agenda Item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask the council to work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to Section 5.03.120 and various sections of Chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with law enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliant carts. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you are proposing not only further criminalize, but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist, and therefore it makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Please get ahead. LA County has already taken steps to invest into their street vendor community, which includes a $1 million investment to help bring and support their street vendor community. So you could either get behind this or fall behind. Thank you.
Hello, City Council. This is Robert Porter, lifelong resident of San Bernardino, for an item not on the agenda. I'd like you guys to consider, since you just passed the new additions to the cannabis ordinance, to possibly consider opening up areas for more zoning for cannabis licenses. It's possible to, let's get more specific. Let's, around certain buildings, we could lower the distance and maybe get, 50 more properties added to the possibilities of getting a cannabis license. What this would do is actually raise the property values for these areas like you did 2 weeks ago, and helped all those people who own those businesses or own those properties raise the value of their property, because now they can say, hey, it's zoned for cannabis licensing. Now, we could actually do that if we lowered the distance and maybe, help a lot more of our property owners raise the value of their property, which would be good in the long run. We don't want property values to go down. We want them to go up. So I really believe that this is possible, and if you guys would think about it, maybe send it to staff, take a look at it a little bit more closely. It doesn't have to be, right next to schools, but you could differentiate between schools and other buildings and maybe make some 300-foot limit and some 600. And then that might, in certain areas, open up more properties for cannabis licenses and raise their property values. So consider this, please, team, and let's get this cannabis licensing stuff rolling and start getting some tax revenue for our city. This is Robert Porter, and I love San Bernardino.
Hello, my name is Yain. I'm a resident of San Bernardino. I am born and raised in San Bernardino. I am a community member calling about agenda item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to section 5.30.120 and various sections of chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliance cards. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you are proposing only further criminalize, but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cards required to be in compliance does not exist, and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Reverend Father Manuel Cardoza, and I am a community member, pastor of Our Lady of Hope Catholic Church here in the city of San Bernardino. And I am calling about agenda item 6 in support of our street vendor community. First, I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to section 5.30.120 and various sections of chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. You know that vendors do not have access to compliant carts. They need investment, not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. As you well know, many of these street vendors rely on this as a source of income, and it's something that with the policy changes, you're taking away their livelihoods and support of their families. And especially as a Catholic pastor, we have to worry about the dignity of the human person above all things. And so the policy changes you are proposing only further criminalize but fail to properly address the real problem, which is that proper cart required to be in compliance does not exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. So again, we appreciate your support on this. And again, this is Father Manuel Cardoza of Our Lady of Hope Catholic Church. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello, yes, my name is Jennifer Medina. I am a resident of San Bernardino. I am a community member. I live off Baseline and Waterman. I am calling about agenda item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education, education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment to section 5.30.120 and various sections of chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors for some reason. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliant carts. What they need is investment, not tickets. Need to invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you are proposing only further criminalize. Capital letters on criminalize, a bunch of exclamations. But fail to properly address the real problem, which is that the proper cart required to be in compliance does not even exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Okay? My whole point of this message, comment, whatever you want to call it, is that you guys need to Be with the community. Help the community. These street vendors are part of the community. So instead of criminalizing against them and trying to rip them apart and rip them out of our community, we need to help them, invest them, and the community is watching. San Bernardino is crying. A lot of racial injustice is happening, and people are speaking up. Organizations are coming together, and we are watching. All our members are leaders to do the right thing. Stop criminalizing people. Thank you.
Hi, this call is from Hardy Brown, a citizen in San Bernardino. He's disabled, so I have to read it for him. This is his wife, Cheryl Brown. He says, San Bernardino County, Riverside County supervisors, and Inland Empire cities have officially declared racism a public health crisis. And now you have before you tonight to declare the same in this city. I am in support of you declaring racism a problem in San Bernardino. Currently, only 10% of the employees working in the city are black, and only 5% of blacks are working in the police department. In 115 years, there's never been a black police chief hired. In your resolution, you point out that African Americans make up 13.8% of the city's population. There is a disparity in the workforce numbers and the population. My question to you is this because of systemic racism in our city? I think we know the answers because you state in the same resolution that you affirm racism results in disparities in employment, public safety, criminal justice, economic development, housing, and education. In another note, the mayor vetoed the limit on financial contributions to political campaigns. This is one more reason for me to join the many voices calling for him to resign now. Mayor, your failed leadership and alleged personal abusive conduct toward women have brought shame and disgrace on our city. We cannot condone and use taxpayers' money to defend this kind of behavior of any elected official. Lastly, I'd like to also urge citizens to vote no on Measure S in this November election and vote early beginning on October 5th. Thank you. Hardy Brown.
Hello, yes, good afternoon. This is Charlie Jacobs, and I'm a resident of San Bernardino for the past 50 years, living on the west side of San Bernardino, Foothill Route 66 area. My call today is in reference to the condition of the Nicholson Park Community Center. The center has been neglected willfully for over 15 years. Funding for the Nicholson Park and Center has gone to other parks that are thriving. Our community has missed out on events and programming and just the ability to enjoy the park. We are plagued with squirrels, brown grass, dead trees, no water, no electricity, and lack of security. We need accountability for this park. Not another dollar should go to another park until Nicholson's condition is admitted by the city that it would take over $1 million assessed replacement value for the Nicholson Community Center. That should be public knowledge for those of us that live in this area. You know, but we're constantly in the dark. If we don't ask a question, then no one is forthcoming in helping us. This is outrageous. It's horrible to have to pass that park every day for all those years and see nothing going on. Nothing. And have to go to Paris Hill, Lytle Creek to have a good time, or even into Rialto. It's horrible, and I'm tired of it. If I have to go a little further to get some type of assistance, I'm ready to do that. Thank you.
This is Ann Michaels. This is for the mayor and the council. Let's start to focus on what you were chosen to do. Priorities, that's what it's all about. We don't want to hear about the allegations against the mayor. Not interested in the inappropriate sexual stuff that's going on. It has nothing to do with our city. I'm fully supportive of our mayor, and he needs to focus on how to bring the city back, make it the best that it can be, and not all this other stuff. And shame on you people that waste valuable time on doing this stuff. What is wrong with you? San Bernardino is better than that. It should be better than it is. So let's put a stop to that. And mayor and council, please, do the work you're supposed to do, the work that we voted you in to do, and let's just let this other stuff go, okay? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bertie Van Ness. I'm a resident of the 7th Ward. I'm calling for the general meeting, the open meeting, and basically I want to call and voice my concerns on a few matters. First, Mayor Valdivia, you need to resign. You're toxic, and the city is already in a downward spiral because of your direct actions against people who worked with you, as well as us constituents. Your actions have cost the city so much money that we obviously do not have. We are suffering because of you. The city is falling apart. Streets are falling apart. Everywhere you look, there are code enforcement issues. The homeless are suffering and causing issues in all of our surrounding neighborhoods. The safety of all the residents is at risk with all the murders, assaults, burglaries, etc., and it has to stop. Because of your lack of integrity, I doubt you would be man enough to step down on your own. So I call upon you, council members, to call for his resignation. You all know what is going on, and your lack of doing what is best for the city and constituents is what we all can see by your actions, or should I say inactions. Council members who choose to not speak up and call for Mayor Valdivia's resignation need to resign. You aren't helping us or the city if you sit there and are part of the problem. Then you have to go. It is very concerning that anything we do and anything that we say as residents, as tax-paying citizens, is pushed aside. You don't listen. And it's very, very discouraging. It's not okay, and you guys really need to do something now. Thank you.
Paula Plunk, general audience participation. Let's get straight to the depravity that you call your San Bernardino city government, shall we? To be clear, women, children in city and county are not, and I repeat not, intended victims, prey, or whores. The sociopathic behavior endorsed by most on this council and racist IPC McBride and his little bitches of POA management is no better than letting in a pedophile to Disneyland for free. This is all of your legacies as so-called city government officials. 2. In the trifecta of failure, the office of CMCA and HR director at the end of World War II in Europe, 1945, women who chose to be used by German troops were considered to be collaborating with the enemy. Those collaborators were marched into town square, and their heads were shaved as a symbol of the world of their treachery. You bitches now stand in my town square of democracy. It is 2020, and since you have chosen not to learn anything from history, your collaboration gives you zero value to the women and children in the city and county of San Bernardino, so get out. As a beautiful Hispanic woman was being sexually harassed, sexually manipulated, and psychologically abused by JV, you, CM, kept your mouth shut, or would that be wide open for $70,000? This is your legacy. Get out. 4, my family is a military family of 11 honored veterans fighting from the Battle of Guadalcanal to my husband's service during the Cold War. We are completely done by you spitting and stomping on their honor and service to this country. You have continually used those chairs of democracy for personal bullshit and to hide a predatory sexual harasser. You are not worthy to sit in those chairs, so get out. In closing, and I quote, "It matters," said Qui-Gon Jinn, said quietly, "it matters which side we choose. Even if there will never be more light than dark, even if there will never be more joy in the galaxy than there is pain, for every action we undertake, for every word we speak, for every life we touch, it matters." I don't turn toward light because it means something or win some sort of comic game. I turn toward it because it is the light. Claudia Gay, Master and Apprentice. If you cannot stand up in the humanity and rapid and compassion, you all get the hell out of those chairs, because my family is coming, and we're coming hard. But you all have a nice night.
Public comment for Treasurer Ortiz, open session. Council, last week you released a summary report of the investigation into the mayor for claims of sexual harassment, hostile work environment, and illegal campaign activity. While the investigation itself was limited to say the least, the investigator was still able to substantiate 19 of the claims by Myrna Cisneros, 14 of the claims by Karen Cervantes, and 3 by Jackie Abode. Yet within hours of the release, Henry and Sandra were both quoted as saying there wasn't enough information for them. So I want to know, what's your number? How many claims needed to be substantiated for you both to admit publicly what you already knew was happening at City Hall? The fact that you're okay with any claims being true and not calling for the resignation of the mayor only proves how complacent you are. But that's what happens when you say what's popular but refuse to do what's right, huh, Sandra? Or when the mayor is helping to fund your re-election, right, Henry? Or when the mayor is illegally using city staff and resources for your campaign, Juan and Basine, or you equally benefit from the corrupt practices, like Fred, or you helped John change the municipal code and helped him fire the city manager so he could get his hands on the employees in the first place, right, Teddy? Or you don't bring forward any central policy to hold him accountable, Jim? It's time for you all to start doing the right thing, speak up, and demand the mayor resign, and I'll show you how to do it. John Valdivia, you're a very despicable human being, a coward, an embarrassment to the city of San Bernardino, and a liability we cannot afford. You need to resign immediately.
Hi, I'm calling for the open session. My name is Christopher Gonzalez. I'm a resident of San Bernardino living in Ward 2, calling about Agenda Item 6 in support of our street vendor community. I ask that you work to invest in education and outreach before you adopt the code amendment into Section 5.30.120 and various sections of Chapter 8.01 that will only further criminalize street vendors. Leading a program with enforcement is asking for it to fail. Vendors do not have access to compliment cards. They need not tickets. Invest in the infrastructure needed for them to be successful so they too can continue to contribute to our economy. The policy changes you are proposing only further criminalize, but to fail to properly address the real problem, which is the proper card required to be in compliance does not exist and therefore makes it nearly impossible to receive permits. Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Mireya González. Soy residente de San Bernardino y vivo en el Distrito 2. Soy un miembro de la comunidad llamando sobre el punto 6 de la agenda en apoyo a nuestra comunidad de vendedores ambulantes. Esta tarde les quiero pedir al concilio y al alcalde que no aprueben las enmiendas a la ordenanza de vendedores en las aceras del Código Municipal. Si ustedes deciden cambiar estas pólizas, los vendedores ambulantes serán más afectados porque ustedes les están poniendo más empeño en forzar el código que en educar a nuestra comunidad. No pueden ignorar que los ambulantes contribuyen mucho a la economía de esta ciudad y están levantando la vida en nuestras calles. Por eso deben de ser incluidos en la economía formal. La movilidad económica para todos los residentes es importante y les insisto, ampliar los recursos educativos para nuestros vendedores ambulantes que están trabajando para poderse formalizar y apoyar un poco más la economía de nuestra ciudad. Es tiempo de educar, no es tiempo de castigar y de criminalizar la venta ambulante. Gracias por su tiempo.
That was Ms. Mireya Gonzalez, and she says, I am calling on item number 6. I support the sidewalk vendors and request that the mayor and city council not adopt the code amendment ordinance. Any changes to the ordinance will significantly impact the sidewalk vendors because the city is focusing more on enforcing the code rather than educating the community. Do not ignore that sidewalk vendors contribute to the city's economy and need to be included in the formal economy. I insist that you expand the education resources for sidewalk vendors working to formalize and support the city's economy. It is time to educate and decriminalize sidewalk vending.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Ryan Oganesian with RD San Bernardino. My comments are in regards to the proposed procedures for the additional cannabis retail permits that are currently being drafted by the City Attorney. We believe that the increased cannabis retail storefronts will provide much needed additional tax revenue to the city. In addition, we are confident that it will help revitalize buildings that are currently not occupied, helping surrounding businesses. Speaking on a personal level, RD San Bernardino will invest a very substantial amount of money in the city of San Bernardino. This investment will not only help our facility, but it will benefit all the other restaurants and businesses in our specific area. In addition to the investment in property improvements, we plan to continue our support of local charities with a portion of all profits going directly back into the community. I'm not alone in asking the city that there is no need to impose any additional buffer in between retail cannabis locations. This additional buffer will only inhibit potential redevelopment in the city. We strongly suggest that the city use the extensive data provided by HDL, including the use of their rankings provided from all previous applicants, which was a very expensive process that ultimately resulted in the award of the current cannabis license holders. Please note that we did not file a lawsuit and strongly believe that ranked applicants next in line that want to partner with the city of San Bernardino to obtain a retail license should not have any active or pending litigation against the city. I'm a proud business owner, and I look forward to expanding my investment portfolio in the city of San Bernardino. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to working with you.
My name is Metzley. I am a resident of San Bernardino. I am a community member calling about Agenda Item 6 in support of our street vendor community. We need to invest in resources to help them be successful so they too can contribute to the economy instead of trying to criminalize them any further. The city and law enforcement is already stealing their materials to make a living, and they are criminalizing them despite them doing nothing wrong within the San Bernardino community. I ask that you stop the violence upon them and please care and invest in methods to help them succeed in these hard pandemic times instead of creating methods to harm them. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Luz Roldán y soy residente de aquí de San Bernardino. Y mi llamada es para pedir que en el punto número 6, donde habla sobre los vendedores, veanlo porque quiero apoyarlo. Necesitamos apoyo de la comunidad para que los vendedores ambulantes y para que los permitan a seguir haciendo su vendimia. Gracias.
Okay, that was Ms. Luz, and she says she's calling on item number 6 regarding the sidewalk vending in order to support them. She says we need support from the community to allow sidewalk vendors to continue selling.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Karina Roldán y soy miembro de la comunidad. Estoy llamando sobre el punto número 6 de la agenda en apoyo a nuestra comunidad vendedora ambulante. Les pido que no aprueben las enmiendas a la ordenanza de vendedores en las aceras del Código Municipal. Si ustedes deciden cambiar las pólizas, los vendedores ambulantes serán más afectados, porque ustedes les están poniendo más empeño en enfocar que educar. No podemos ignorar los ambulantes, que los ambulantes contribuyen mucho a la economía de cada ciudad. Ellos deben ser incluidos en la economía formal. La movilidad económica para todos los residentes es importante y les insisto a ampliar los recursos educativos para los vendedores que están trabajando para formalizarse en nuestra economía. Gracias.
That was Ms. Karina. She says, I'm calling on item number 6 to support the sidewalk vendors. I ask that you not approve the code amendment ordinance. If you choose to change the policy, the sidewalk vendors will be impacted. Do not ignore that sidewalk vendors contribute to the city's economy and need to be included in the formal economy. I insist that you expand the education resources for sidewalk vendors working to formalize and support the city's economy. That concludes the recorded public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to our staff reports. Item.
I've got an additional one to read. Got an additional one to read. Good evening, Council.
Mr. Mulvihill, please going forward, submit those to the city clerk.
Oh, no, you don't have to.
Yeah. Good evening, council members. My name is Cheryl Valencia, a San Bernardino resident, homeowner, and taxpayer for 20 years. It is my understanding that your council members feel that there is nothing you can legally do to remove Mayor John Valdivia. John Valdivia does not care about this city and will not step down due to his egomania and power lust. He is a dangerous city liability. How much are you going to allow this city to spend because of his behavior? How much have we paid to the former city manager in a settlement? How much have we wasted already with back pay and penalties to the city clerk and city attorney? How much in attorney fees have we paid for these 3 legal matters? How much more money has been spent already, and how much more will we spend on additional legal matters for all these 3 claimants? How much have we spent already for the investigation of John Valdivia's behavior with his staff employees? How much more will be spent on additional investigations? How much have we spent already, and how much more will be spent on legal representation on the 5 claims made by 5 of the 6 former employees? How much will we spend to settle these claims? I haven't even mentioned the costs associated with the pay-for-play claims, current and future. Just think of all we could have accomplished with this money instead. Police response time reduction, code enforcement restoration, park and street improvement. Where does it end? This city cannot afford any of these expenses. I cannot afford more taxes to pay for his actions. Businesses and homeowners alike are fleeing at an alarming rate.
Mr. Mulvihill, let me interrupt you, sir. I'm going to recognize Mr. Mulvihill.
Representation.
You're out of order, sir. I'm calling on the city attorney for her advice.
Will now have due to
Ms. City
John
Attorney, you're
Delde's
recognized. Ms. City Attorney, go ahead, please.
If you feel you have no
Mr.
legal
Mulvihill,
recourse
you're out
to
of order,
remove John
sir.
Valdivia from office,
Mr.
then all 7
Mulvihill,
of
you are
must
out of
stand
order.
together.
We'll take a recess for 5 minutes. Recess
Power
for
grabs.
5 minutes.
Remove all possible resources.
Ms. City
from them.
Manager, terminate the call. We'll just do it.
COVID-19 notice that is published with our agenda. Our agenda is very clear about how people can participate. People may submit written comments or they may leave comments on our audio line. I want to point this out to you. Written comments will be provided to the mayor and city council prior to the meeting and will be posted for public review. Voicemail comments will be played aloud, but written comments will not be read aloud. I just want to make sure that we are following our rules so that we don't have claims of disparate treatment. We have published the way that people can participate. So if people submit written comments, we should follow the agenda rules. So I would say that it is out of order to read.
Well, these are new rules. These are new rules that weren't. These were new rules.
Mr. Charette, Mr. Mulvihill, you are out of order.
John Valdivia.
For 5 minutes. For tonight's item, professional services agreement. with
Point of
Blake
order.
Group
Point of
for
order.
Professional planning services.
Point of order. Point of
Yeah,
order.
so I do believe that we
Hold
were
on,
discussing
Mr.
something that
Sanchez.
needs to be-
The chair recognizes Mr. Charette. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. I'd like a ruling on this, and I'd like to know how, what it would take for the council to make a vote. I mean, in other words, we need 5 votes, or what do we need to supersede and overrule what the mayor is trying to do? And he's trying to hijack the meeting and doesn't want the city council to perform what we are elected to do, and that is represent the people. And along those lines, that comment, I think.
Mr. Charette,
No,
I am not trying to
Second the vote to
preclude.
listen to that
I'm not
comment.
trying to preclude
I've got a
the
point of
council
order.
members.
I've got a
We're trying to conduct the
There's
business.
a point of order. Appeal the ruling of the chair. We have a
Mr.
point of
Charette, we're trying to conduct business in this community.
I understand that.
Yeah,
and
we
I'm
have, the
trying to
public
do-
has a right to be heard
let's have a-
first
that's
before
fine.
we
I'm trying to do it respectfully.
Let's have a fruitful conversation
Mayor, if I
when
may.
the opportunity comes. We need to
Mayor,
move
if I
forward.
trying to do that, and I'm trying to
Ms.
ask
Carvajal,
the
go ahead.
attorney
City attorney.
for a ruling.
Okay, I'm going to answer your question.
And the
I'm
mayor
sorry.
is hijacking the meeting. He's not.
I am
Okay,
not
I'd
hijacking
like
the
to answer your question. You asked for me to answer your question. I'd like to answer your question.
Overrule the rules, period. This is insanity. The public has the right to be heard by 4
I didn't
o'clock
get
in
my
writing.
question answered.
This is incredibly insane.
I
You're
didn't get
denying
my-
the public its right to be heard.
I would like a question answered. I would simply like to know, and I'm trying to do it respectfully, I would simply like to know that I think the city clerk indicated that these rules had been posted based on, what, January 20th or something? That's like 10 months ago? Is
Before
that right?
COVID.
No.
Before COVID happened.
I'm asking the city clerk.
Fred, you should read the backup material. It's there. It's posted.
No, I'm asking, she made a comment while you were on break about when these rules were posted and where they show up. I just want to know what date you said, Genevieve.
So I wanted to let you know that the January 15th meeting from this year has a bullet point on the cover page that says, let me find it again.
Genevieve, you've answered my question. That's enough. I understand. I've read it, and we've made comments, and it is posted. My question is, why tonight is this being ruled? I have read things in since January 20th. I've had people email me things and ask me to read it into the record, and I've done that. I think others of my colleagues have done it.
I've done it.
I just simply want to know why all of a sudden tonight, when why we weren't called out then. That's all I want to know.
And I will answer that. I will answer that question. Different cities throughout the state of California have been receiving complaints from different organizations, including the ACLU, making sure that during these COVID times that we're actually giving members of the public the right to participate and fairly. We've been reminded to follow our rules. All I was doing is pointing that out to you because I've seen other cities receive these complaints, including lawsuits, and I just wish to remind you the rules. If you don't like this rule, the city council is able to change them. You can ask your city clerk to agendize this for your next meeting.
We never passed these.
Could you please be respectful and let me finish? If you don't like these rules, which have been posted since January, you have the authority as a city council to ask your city clerk to agendize them, and you can discuss which rules you'd like to adopt.
Who passed these rules, though?
Guys, we can talk about that for items to be referred to committee. We got a lot of business tonight. We're moving on, folks. Number 4 is professional services agreement with PlaceWorks for professional planning services. The city manager, please proceed with item number 4 on staff reports.
Mayor, we need to read that public comment, please.
We're moving on. We're going to go ahead and move on, folks.
We need to allow public.
Well, if I make a motion that you allow us.
We'll get into that in just a moment, Ms. Ibarra. Ms. City Manager, please proceed with item number 4.
I'm going to introduce Mike Huntley, who I believe he's going to introduce his team. I do want to point out to you that
We owe a great deal of thanks on this item to Assemblymember Ramos. He got us a $3 million grant to do this general plan amendment. And we've gone out for an RFP, and Mike is going to give, and his team are going to give you an update on the recommendation for our general plan amendment.
So, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm going to let Oliver Mujica, he's the city's planning manager, do the presentation. When he's done, we'll answer any questions you have. In addition, we do have 2 representatives from PlaceWorks here tonight, too, if you had any additional questions of them and the services that they will provide to the city. So with that, Oliver.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. This is actually an exciting time. I know we've been discussing the need for a general plan update and a development code update. It's been a while. We're excited to proceed. Thanks to the Assembly member, we have the funding to do so. Back in April of this year, we released an RFP for those services to select a consultant. We received a total of 5 proposals. Staff, we had reviewed those proposals, and we conducted interviews with what we felt were the top 3. Very competitive group of proposals, all well experienced teams. I was commenting to Michael here that I felt like it's one parachute, 3 children, kind of a thing. It was really they were that close. We're recommending the firm of PlaceWorks. By way of background, they're highly regarded in the industry for general plans and just kind of advanced planning work is what we'll call. You may be aware that they are currently working on the San Bernardino County general plan, all of their community plans. So there's a lot of familiarity within the area. They have a diverse team. They have a stable of several professionals that can help us throughout the process, and most importantly, the kind of the timing. I know we've commented that this is a 2, 3, 4 year process. I did speak with a member of their team, Mr. Woody Thatcher, earlier regarding the reality of the timing, and in practicality, a lot of the time involves kind of the city review and kind of the city's end of it. I've indicated to Michael that my goal for this is to keep the project moving. My goal is to keep everyone informed along the process. What I will be doing is providing regular updates to the City Council, i.e. whether it's a monthly, just a report. We are going to have a website for the general plan that will be updated regularly by the team. This is going to be a crash course in general plans, if I may, for not just the council, for us, but also for the community. My goal is that everyone be educated to the point so we can make well-informed decisions. General plan, I don't take lightly. I know we've made comments here and there about our existing document. My goal is to eliminate that, and that we have a general plan that ultimately is going to benefit the community. It's not just a planning document, if I may. It talks about the general plan includes elements that cover infrastructure, traffic, those kinds of things. And so we can take those policies and goals from the general plan and incorporate them into our CIP that we adopt regularly. We have our block grant programs that we look, how do we, what do we fund? What's our need? Community services. There's a wide variety. It's basically a roadmap for us. I think San Bernardino is in a juncture of favorable circumstances where there's a lot of opportunities here, and I think that this is going to be a document that's going to help us. Woody Thatcher here is from PlaceWorks that can answer any questions. Again, we strongly recommend them. I will also add that a part of their team is National Core. If you're familiar with their team members, Alexa and Sandra, they are highly regarded in the community and in the community workshops and visioning and those kinds of things. And so we selected a group. Again, they're going to hit the ground running. We're going to meet immediately, and within the next month or so, we will be coming back to you and kind of laying out the roadmap for the next couple years. So with that, our recommendation is that the council select or approve the contract with PlaceWorks so that we may move forward. I would be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up to council members. Councilmember Nickel.
Yeah, I received a request. I know that we're also hopefully moving forward on the mall proposals. Will PlaceWorks be on board soon enough to take part in those discussions that take place with those firms that are proposing on the mall project?
They will, if to answer your question, yes. If the agreement is, if they are selected this evening and that contract is approved, we will be starting tomorrow. And so that is one of the things. Along with that, part of the work program is a downtown specific plan. And so again, that's something that they're experiencing in. Once we proceed or select a development team for the Carousel Mall, we will mend those teams together so that it'll work in unison.
I would like to move the staff recommendation.
Second, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. So Oliver, I had a question on packet page, trying to refer to my packet page. Packet page 17 on the discussion portion, there are essentially about 6 firms that submitted a proposal ranging from 2.2 million to about the highest of 3.6. Can you explain to the public as to why, help us understand for the viewing public, the selection criteria, the process. PlaceWorks was one of the more substantive ones that placed higher and near that higher threshold. But can you help us understand that?
Yes, I think to answer that question directly, frankly, it was the top 3, their scope of works. It was the thoroughness of the scope, really. I've had as you know, how many administrations ago I started doing this thing. I've worked on a few general plans in my career, and the one thing that I'm adamant about doing is eliminating change orders. And that's very common. That, it's just like, because respectfully, the council or the community will ask for something what's considered additional, and so we keep going back. My goal is since we're using state money here, I will. This is a gift, frankly. I want to guard it closely. I will also include that in the budget. I'm not sure what page it is on your packet, but there's a table that shows all the cost and the associated tasks that go along with those. If you were to scroll down to the very bottom, I believe it's task number 12. It's either 12 or 14, where it's the implementation. And so what we've talked about is, and PlaceWorks has been involved in this conversation, as we start scrolling down the tasks, completing them, there may be cases where there's a surplus in a task. And so what we will do is we will shift that surplus. If it's a couple dollars or a couple $1,000s, we'll drop it down into that implementation column. I think right now there's about 142,000 or something like that in that contingency. And so again, we're I think that the scope of work warrants that fee.
Okay, thank you. And then I also understand we have individuals from PlaceWorks. Are there any comments to the City Council on behalf of PlaceWorks? I don't know who the chain of command or project lead is on this.
Mr. Woody Thatcher is the principal in charge.
Wonderful. Welcome, Woody.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it's a pleasure to be here. And for me personally, back in San Bernardino after a number of years working on some earlier efforts with actually some faces that I see on the screen from a number of years ago. So it's a pleasure to be back. What's really exciting about me personally, I'll say, on behalf of coming back, is that I recognize that the city is on the cusp. And what I mean on the cusp is that there's a lot happening now that earlier when I was here 20, 30 years ago was not there. Was kind of moribund, even in fact. So I think there are so many possibilities. And we see the general plan as being something more than a technical document that you have to prepare. The state requires them of every cities. I think Oliver mentioned the word implementation. Our focus is on creating not just words on a document and not just graphics, but the eyesight, our lens will be, how do you carry this out to benefit every person in this community in a very equitable way? And that's our mission here as well. I have with us also just Karen Gully, who's on the screens waving there. She will be the person who will be leading the downtown specific plan as a part of the effort, coordination with your selected consultant on the Carousel Mall redevelopment, and then Brian Judd, who will be keeping us honest and on track throughout this process, and a key advisor through many years of experience and knowledge about where we're going.
Thank you very much, Woody. We appreciate you, and I understand you're also part of the airport specific plan, and we're really excited to see you come also to our downtown and the greater good for our overall general plan. Final comments or questions? If not, there's a motion in a second. Councilmember Barra.
Question for Mr. Oliver Mujica. What was the rankings on the consulting firms? On page 17, I see that staff only interviewed Kimley Horn, Placeworks, and Raimi Associates, which were over 3 million quoted. What happened to CSG and Diet?
Again, their scope was not, we felt that the scope was not complete as we were looking for. Their area, frankly, their area of weakness, if I want to say that, and again, I don't want to, disparage their proposal, but we felt that community input, participation, involvement, we felt that was a key here. This is a large city. Also the diversity, we each ward essentially can be characterized as an individual city. I mean, it has different demographics, and socioeconomics. I mean, geography, a number of things. And so we felt that the first two. And by the way, I wrote these in alphabetical order. They're not
okay.
Listed by rank of score. I deliberately did it by alphabetical order.
It looks to me, it looks like it was done by amount as well. Coincidentally, because I did go to CSG Consulting. It looks like they also focus on community input. I'm impressed with the Diet and Batia as well. So that's why I was asking those questions, especially when we were only given the $3 million to update our general plan. We're looking at, already over budget.
Well, no, if I may, we have the $3 million grant from the assembly member,
mm-hmm.
and then we also have an SB2 grant in the amount of $625,000 that was geared for the downtown area.
And I'm looking here.
So we do have an amount in our coffers of $3,625,000.
Okay, and I'm seeing right here for the downtown specific plan, that was Mool and Polysize. I saw they were focused on, right? And Kimley, Placeworks, and Raimi, they are focused on
That's
downtown.
correct. That's their specialty.
Okay, thank you. That was all.
Everything correct. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, council members. Ms. City Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes, and deep-hearted thank you to Assemblymember James Ramos as well.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
I'll be happy to work with Woody Tesher again, yes.
Item passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 5 is Meadowbrook Insurance Claim Fund. The recommendation is to receive a presentation, provide direction to staff on the remaining balance of insurance claim funds. Ms. City Manager.
Point of order.
State your point of order, ma'am.
Can we go back to talking about the public comment?
Yeah, I'm looking at the August 19th agenda. There is no language that says, but will not be read aloud. I invite everybody to look at the August 19 City Council agenda and look at the restrictions on public comment. Please.
Well, I'd like our council to take a vote if they can right now to allow.
Yeah, I don't know what this January 20. I'm looking at the January 20 agenda. There's virtually no restrictions on the January 20th agenda. I don't know what we're being told right now, but I'm losing faith and confidence in the advice and the counsel we're receiving right now.
Well, congratulations to us all.
So can we take a vote to allow for that public comment to be read? I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
What public comment are you referring to?
I think it would be
Ms. Barra?
appropriate, moving forward, just a quick comment, moving forward.
We need to
I would
have
like-
input on these new rules. This is crazy.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
rules are getting outrageously convoluted.
And
they are changing. They've changed since August. This is unacceptable, people.
Hey,
This is a
could I
policy
ask
decision that needs to be brought to the council before they're unilaterally changed.
Could I ask a question? And that question would be, I understand, I don't think that I don't want to sound like we don't have to follow the rules, but I think we as individuals, if somebody wants to email me 10
Absolutely.
comments, I think I ought to be able to read them. I don't think I fall under the same kind of rules. And if I'm being asked by my constituents who elected me and asked me to read comments in because for whatever reason, they want them read in. They don't want them done on recording. They don't want them and I just think it should be done. And as I said earlier, I have done it and I've never been shut down until tonight. And
but will not be read out aloud. Who added that? Who came up with that language?
Not us.
Not
the
us.
council.
So I do.
Policymakers
I
of
was.
the city.
So look, I know
Mayor,
Sonia
council
had
members
talked
may
to
just
me.
ask that there was a motion.
Look,
on the
if I
floor.
could.
Council
No,
members,
Mr.
there was a
Mr.
motion.
I'm
Sanchez, hold
losing
on.
confidence in the advice and the information we're being provided. I think we were just lied to about 10 minutes ago.
Are you accusing me of lying, Mr.
I don't
Nichols?
know who's lying, but somebody said this has been in our policy since earlier this year. I don't see it
I didn't-
anywhere.
I was
Mr.
made
Nichols,
aware of that. I was made
I
aware
It's
of
did
that
August.
before.
It was added in August.
Mayor and council members, may I, as unpopular as it is for me to have to get involved here, it's my job to help you stay within the boundaries of the Brown Act.
Yeah, and
So
then
we
we need
have
to
to-
stay within the boundaries of the policy.
Mr. Nichol, would you please allow our city
attorney?
attorney?
And
Mr.
the
Nichol,
public
would
has a
you,
right to be
Mr. Nichol,
heard.
you're out of order, sir. Just allow our
So,
city attorney to
I
provide
do
some
not,
advice.
unfortunately, I don't know I don't know how these developed. I don't know what was there in January, what
Who's
wasn't.
developing this language?
Problem is,
Can
we
I
don't
finish?
either. We
Okay,
don't
so-
either.
We don't know who developed this language?
I can find out.
If
for
our
you, but
city
what I'm
attorney
trying to
doesn't
tell
know
you
the
right now
language
is
that's
that-
been added that restricts public comment, we've got a real problem. You should absolutely know.
I just need to tell you that the issue of your rules is not agendized. We can agendize them for you.
Well,
We
it's
can
agendized
answer
now
never
because
agendized
they're violating
before.
the public's right to be heard.
They were never
I do not
agendized in the first
understand-
place.
They were never agendized in the first place. This
I
was a
do not
unilateral change. Who
understand-
made this change? Who made it?
Council members, okay, I can tell you, I did not make this change.
The city
I don't-
manager, who made this change?
But I am advising you, I hope you are listening to me. The item is not agendized for conversation. If you continue to have this conversation, you will be in violation of the Brown Act.
I think
You have a
this
proper-
agenda is in violation of the Brown Act because this
you
wasn't passed by the
have a
council.
proper motion before you to hear the public comment, which I'd like to thank Councilmember Ibarra for following these rules and following our procedure. So you may do that. You may entertain that motion if you wish. The idea of who writes your rules, when they were changed, what they look like, we can put that on the agenda and you can have your policy
Absolutely.
conversation. So if you want to request that,
Absolutely.
I'm happy. I'm sure the city manager would be happy to agendize that. Just
And I'm going to add that there is a portion and an item, and that's, Ms. Ibarra, I was going to allude to that. I'm not ignoring you. I understand that you want this agendized, and there's a portion on our tonight's agenda in which you can refer that back to council, and we can recognize that. So
I'm not asking it to be agendized. I'm asking for that public comment to be read.
It needs to be read.
what public comment, Ms. Ibarra?
The one that Council Member Mulvihill was going to read.
He just read it.
I pretty much finished it.
You did? Okay, because I remember you were cut off. I want to make
Yeah,
sure.
you were cut off and interrupted through the whole thing.
If I can make a comment, I agree. You pretty much finished it. I heard it. But I think with the way it was interrupted at the end, I think it lost any impact. And I think it needs to be read without.
Well, any impact would be personal, and we're going to move on. Miss,
That's your opinion, Mayor. That's your
Well,
opinion. I believe that.
I think we've already heard it, Mr. Charette. We've already heard
away
it. We
from
understand. Now you're
I
just
would
being a
like to make
political
approval
bully.
of the agenda,
So,
a formal item
we're gonna
going
move.
forward.
That's fine.
Before every
Henry.
council
That's
meeting.
fine. Okay.
We don't need these surprise additions to the rules
Okay.
that we don't
all
vote on.
understand
Are you
exactly
done, Henry?
what's
Are you done, Fred? Because we got lots of city council business to take care of.
I'm done. I said we all understand
All right.
what's going on.
So, Ms. Ledoux, would you please continue and proceed on with item number 5, the Meadowbrook Insurance Claim Funds?
Yes, Mayor and Council, as you recall, we had some insurance funds from the Meadowbrook Bridge, and there's some remaining funds left over after what you had already approved were done. And Chris has a PowerPoint to go over with some thoughts on how to spend and get your input on how to spend the additional remaining funds.
Thank you. Good evening again, Mayor and council members. As Terry said, back in September of last year, you may recall, the mayor and city council provided direction to staff for the use of the insurance funds from the result of fire damage that occurred at the Meadowbrook Bridge. We're happy to have the opportunity tonight to actually update you on the status of the projects that were programmed with those funds. And also, as the city manager mentioned, we're looking forward to receiving the council's input on use of the remaining funds. Mr. Alex Kishta, our city engineer, will actually be providing the presentation this evening, and we're happy to answer questions at the conclusion. So, Alex.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council Member, and welcome aboard, Mr. Field. We're looking forward to work with you in a new adventure. The Meadowbrook Bridge Insurance Claim Funds. The next one, please. Next. As you might recall, the bridge is located at the 250 North Sierra Way. That is in Ward 1. And on October 11, 2017, the bridge suffered fire damage from a transient that was, under the bridge. The city insurance claim that we filed with our insurance carrier resulted in about $812,504 of cash payment. In July 17 of 2019, the mayor and the city council at the meeting, they directed staff to utilize the insurance money received in the following manner. The first one was to complete the design of the bridge. As you may recall, we had the design for the bridge started already. So the mayor and the city council opted for us to finish the design so we can shelve it for the future if we need to rebuild the bridge. That was a cost of $40,480. And then the other request was to try to rehab that bridge, and we did. We were successful. If the mayor and the council recall, at the time to demolish the bridge was $65,000, but we managed to find a contractor that can rehabilitate the bridge for us at the cost of $76,438. Also, the council give staff direction to bid for the rehabilitation for parking lot at Nunes Park facing 5th Street. The estimate cost at the time was $225,000. And then also give the direction to rehab the parking lot at Lyle Creek Park at the corner of K and Oak Street. The estimate at the time was $175,000. And also the council asked to appropriate $150,000 for Nicholson Park. So that was the total funding by the mayor and city council of $666,918. Next. The next slide is I want to show you what was the Meadowbrook Bridge before and after. If you see the damages before, that is the bridge was at the time was wood metal beams. So all the wood was burned, so all wood was removed, and we rehabilitated with what we call a steel mesh. If you see it after, and the contractor did a very good job into rehabbing that bridge. Just looks like new. Next. And the next one is the Lyle Creek parking lot. You can see the before and after. And the next one is the Nunes Park. And you can see what was before and what was after. So with that being said, we went back, and from the next slide, you can see that is the design for the bridge was cost us $40,480. The Meadowbrook rehab cost us $76,438. The Nunes Park lot cost us $121,000 $266. The Lily Creek Park, which is complete, all of these projects are completed, by the way, cost us $107,736. The reason why these two parking lots came up under what we estimated, because the pavement rehab that we choose for this parking was not far gone for us to use a Cape Seal. Cape Seal is a kind of rehab that we use on residential streets, which will hold the parking lot for a long time, but is not as extensive as the grind and overlay, and it's not a slurry seal. It's basically between the two, which is basically we put in a pea gravel and then have it set for a while, and then we come up with type 3 slurry seal on top of it to make it stronger. And then the other money, that $150,000, is for the Nicholson Park, which we have not started or used it as of yet. Just bear in mind that the cost for the parking lots that is the construction only, does not include the staff time, project management, and the inspection and the testing of these parking lots. Next. So with that being said, the cash payment was $812,504. Total completed project cost us at $368,023. Nicholson Park set aside for now is $150,000. Then whatever the $294,481 is the leftover from that fund to be utilized in other projects. So in the past couple of months, we had a couple of meetings with with different council members to utilize what is we need, how can we utilize the leftover money for other projects within the city. So, and this the project without, it's with no order, it's just with the order they received. The first project we received was to rehabilitate the soccer field at Nunes Park, located on 5th Street. That's estimated at $425,000. We also received a request to install outside showers at 3 parks due to COVID-19. This is what discussed in a CDBG ad hoc committee, that these parks were Rubin Campus Community Park, Rudy Hernandez, and Delman Heights at the estimated cost of $60,000. We also received a request for rehabilitation of the parking lot at Lyle Creek Park of Eureka Street. That's a 10,000 square foot parking lot. We estimate that to be at the $35,000. And then the other request is to rehabilitate the parking lot at Lyle Creek at K Street, which is all the way down next to the flood control channel. That is about 40,000 square foot parking lot with estimation of $140,000. And also we received a request to rehab the parking lot at Moreno Park, which is Meadowbrook Park, which estimated as $125,000. So staff at this point are seeking the input and the direction from the mayor and the city council regarding project programming for the remaining Meadowbrook Bridge insurance claim funds. That concludes staff reports, and we will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kishta. We appreciate your report. Councilmember Richard, you had some comments?
Yes. First off, I want to thank Alex for that great report. Those parks look amazing. We had a comment by one of our citizens tonight in regards to Nicholson Park and all the problems that we've had. And I want to thank the council, my colleagues here, because we awarded some funding to go to that park. But, we're thankful for it, but we want to see some progress. We saw before and after pictures of a parking structure that, that was paved, and we appreciate that. Like I said, they look wonderful, but you can't even take a picture of a parking lot, the grass, the issues with the squirrels, the community center, or anything at Nicholson Park. And I think at some point we have to stop saying that the park is in such bad shape that we're going to get to it. I think that we just have to get to it. We have funding set aside to go there, and I just, we just want the park to look like a park and be a part. The people that live around that park, they just want to have the same access that the rest of the city has. So, Alex, again, thank you. I know you've been very instrumental in all of this, all of these projects. I know that when you talked about Nicholson Park, you talked about all of the things that we could do with the handicapped park and just all these different out of the box thinking ways. Let's start thinking out of the box and let's get some work done at Nicholson Park. Thank you.
So just as a footnote, the funding for tonight, it still includes the $150,000 for Nicholson Park. So that's not removed off the table from previous council action. So we'll open it up to council members.
Yes.
And
If I may, I think it's an exciting time right now for the 6th Ward and Nicholson Park. Through our CDBG grant funding, we will be we've set aside $1 million for Nicholson Park on top of $150,000 for to supplement that $1 million. So in the next, we're looking in the next 12 to 24 months, they're going to spend $1.15 million at Nicholson Park. We were able to do a lot of good work in the 3rd Ward at Lytle Creek. Mr. Alex Kista, how much was it to rehabilitate that parking lot there at Lytle Creek facing K Street?
The one that is we did for K Street, that is cost, that is at Lytle Creek, that is what, 107,736.
107. I mean, we've done some major investments to parks that have been underserved. We were able to do the parking lot at Nunes Park, which came in at a little over 100,000 as well. But one of the major needs in our city is something that I just discovered last night with my colleague Sandra Ibarra. We went to the 2 parking lots at Paris Hill Park, and we were there after dark, 8, 9 o'clock. They're 2 decent-sized parking lots. We were stuck in traffic after dark inside the parking lot that is on the south side of Paris Hill Park. There was a tremendous amount of illegal, what appeared to be illegal activity there. And I looked over to my colleague and I said, what do we do to fix this? Put up a barrier. In the morning, you unlock the barrier. People are allowed to park in the parking lot there. At night, everyone's pushed out. You lock the barrier. We did this at Wildwood Park to great success. And I think it's something we need to do there. And we got to do this before there's another murder or another rape in this parking lot. And it's a quick fix. But I heard good news today from Public Works, which is I think there's something coming down the line to make the improvements necessary, which may include as well barriers at both those parking lots. So I'd like to give staff an opportunity right now to speak on that and make assurances that we can fund that through that CIP project that we've already approved, or whether we need to set aside money from this account in order to ensure those barriers. So if I could have staff kind of either confirm or deny that we can find this funding through a CIP project that we already approved.
Council member, yes. What we at the 2020-21 CIP, there was a project that was approved by the City Council for the Paris Hill Park to improve the parking lot at the community center, which is 1 parking lot, and to do the lighting. My understanding from staff when we were sitting down to develop the work plan for this project, that is the lighting has been updated. Only they tell me that is these poles it's all that need to be painting, which is we'll do. There was $250,000 that is, I think it's more than enough to do the project to rehab the parking lot and install
the barriers.
Gates. Yes, yes, it does.
That will make a difference. I mean, Sandra, if you can speak to this, I mean, it was incredible what was going on. It was half swap meet, half carnival, half auto.
It was like a tailgate party.
I mean, it was insane. We were stuck in traffic inside this parking lot,
and it was after dusk.
And this was after dark. We can resolve so many of these problems, and we're able to put up this barrier. So if we have assurances that the CIP project that we have already approved will cover those barriers, then I would like the balance of the remaining funds from the Meadowbrook Bridge to be used as leverage to get a matching grant to rehabilitate the Nunez soccer field. And now the reason why I bring that up is because in my understanding, from what I've been told in the community, is that soccer field is the most used soccer field in the entire city. In my community here on the west side, soccer is a way of life for many of the people here. And this is our only half-decent soccer field. And it's in such bad shape now that people would prefer to play on a dirt field than on the soccer field. It's an expensive project, but it goes a long way for the people here on the west side. I think many of us had committed that some of this money has to stay, or a lion's share of this money should stay in the community where these funds were pulled. And this money was pulled from the insurance from the burned out bridge at Meadowbrook Park in the First Ward. The community has begged me to try to bring some funding here. And I understand that to find funding in our general fund, in the reserves, in the community development account is not possible. But we can use the remaining balance as leverage to go and seek out a grant or CDBG funding at the end of this fiscal year to complete that project. If I can get again, how much remains in that account, in the balance? What is the balance in that?
There was a 294.
294,000.
481.
481. Yes. 481. Yes.
So we still, I cannot pull funding from the showers that I've committed to. But I think as long as we fund the showers, Sandra's barricades in the Paris Hill Park parking lot are funded through our CIP project. The remaining balance after that, I'm asking that we use that as leverage to fully fund the Nunez soccer field. That would be my motion.
Councilman, so let's do some, okay, we got a motion and a second, got it. 294 minus the proposed showers are, I think, at 60,000.
60.
So then that would remain 234 being allocated to the rehabilitation of the soccer fields at Nunez Park. There's a motion and a second. So for clarity,
and you know what?
That would be the motion.
Yeah, I have to make it clear to staff that this motion would include that they send out an RFP for that project and also bring back a plan of financing to continue.
For what project, Councilman?
For the Nunez soccer field rehabilitation. So to send out an RFP to rehabilitate, to find a contractor that can rehabilitate that soccer field, as well as bring up a plan on how to complete the financing for that project. Because right now, with the remaining balance, we're at roughly 200,000. We need another 200,000. That could be funded through a grant or through our CDBG funding in a couple months.
Well, I think let's let staff do their job as far as trying to find that and bring it back to council. I think you're winning, Councilman. You got 234 for soccer fields rehabilitation. Let staff do their job on how to reprogram that money and try to get it back. As far as the K-rail, that's part of maintenance and operations. I think you could get some barriers in K-rail or A-frame gate on Paris Hill Park, and that's minimal. You could probably pull that out of your existing budget on maintenance and operations. So
they got to be movable, though. They got to be movable.
Well, that's why I said A-frame gates, Mr. Mobile.
But K-rails are definitely not movable.
No,
well, I said A-frame gates.
Thank you.
To correct you, I know what I'm talking about. But thank you, staff, for your presentation. And that's the motion. And there's a second. Yeah, Councilmember Richard, are you there? Is that you?
Yes, that's me. And so I want to thank Teddy for reminding the community about the $1 million. I didn't know about
1.15 million.
1.15 million. So I did not forget about that. But I want to support the soccer field at Nunez Park, and I know because that butts against the 6th Ward, and I know a lot of the residents here go to Nunez Park, but I cannot support it if it happens before something happens at Nicholson Park. Something needs to happen. We need to start seeing some type of improvement at Nicholson Park and stop waiting and saying, what did you say, just 12 to 18 months? 12 to 18 months is a long time for the residents.
Well, maybe staff has a better.
Well, the money's there for Nicholson Park already. It's just a matter of starting.
They've been waiting for 15 years, according to the public comment. So what I'm just saying is that before we start building soccer fields, let's just give the residents on the west end of our city a park. Let's start somewhere.
So are we anticipating more than the 11 or 1.1?
It would start by watering the grass. All you have to do is cut the water on, and that's not going to cost $1 million.
Well, and council member, I've kind of walked through some of those basic maintenance and operations. Staff can tomorrow, have our contractor, RP Landscaping, do a tune-up on our basic sprinkler repair. That's part of maintenance and operations. Those are existing operations that we could turn on valves, turn on water, tune up. I mean, I did it at Lido Creek Park. Throw grass seed down.
That's what we need to get happen before we start building soccer fields.
And get to, and that's no cost. I mean, that's part of the service. So I think.
Alex, Chris, do you want to speak to that? The timing?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
May I? Yes.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, so for the issue with the watering of the on the Nicholson Park, as you may know, the water system or the irrigation system is powered by electrical feed, so it can, it will activate the meters and for it to water the field. Unfortunately, if that system has been completely gone from the community center, transient have got into the community center building, stripped all the wires, stripped everything that we have. So there is no electrical that can support the irrigation. Staff been irrigating this park using batteries for the last few months. And unfortunately, as you may know, the grass is far gone for it to come back.
Alex, what's the timing now on the project?
For the project itself,
the 1.5, yeah.
What we need to do is what we're working on right now is preparing a request for proposal so we can get a qualified consultant to come and design the medical field for us and for the whole park, basically master plan it and then find out, then look at the cost of what they're doing and start building it little by little. So that is the plan for now. And with all, and I'm sorry, Councilman Richard, but it takes time for us to develop, a request for proposal, advertise it, receive the proposals, evaluate, and I can, my country can tell you how long it took him just to get the proposal and, for the general plan amendment. It takes a long time. By the time
So Alex, I do understand what you're saying, and I know that it takes a while, and I know these things take planning. But what I'm asking for, what I'm requesting, is that we have some form of priority, because we can continue to talk about it because we've been doing this for months. We've been talking about what we need for months. Now it's time to implement something. The money is there. Let's get to work. When is it going to become some form of priority? And saying that it's going to take a long time, we know, but if we never start it, it'll never get finished.
Council Member Richard, it is top of my priority. I am in the process of finishing this RFP. I am expecting that RFP to go out for consultant by the end of next week, early the week after. Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's tight enough for us, that is addressing what are we actually looking for. We promise that we'll make this park one of the good parks in the city, and we will continue. We'll keep our promise as much as we can.
Thank you, Alex.
No problem.
All right, thank you. There's a motion and a second. Ms. City Clerk, if you please call the roll. Councilman Figueroa, go ahead, sir. You're muted.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez, I'm actually almost on board there with you. I really do like the idea that, and Councilmember Richard, I do hear your frustration as well. I'm kind of, I don't understand why Nicholson Park is, well, I mean, I hear what staff is saying, and it's frustrating that Nicholson Park has been kind of left behind. In regards to to the second ward park, Parasol Park, I'm fully supportive of helping out that park as well. I do see as the only thing that I'm going to ask and request is that there's you wanted about 230 something was left for the soccer field. I was wondering if you'd be okay with making it just 200, and the one project that's on Eureka, which is used by families playing t-ball on Eureka, that little parking lot for 35,000. If we can just include that, and then the remaining, I'm willing to participate with the remaining for the soccer field.
So I think even with 200,000, that's 50% of where we need to be in order to fully fund the rehabilitation of the Nunez soccer field, right?
How about you?
Would I ask Alex? Yeah.
Yes.
And is that something we can work with? Is that something that that will provide us enough leverage as a city to be able to find a matching grant fund in order to fulfill our project at Nunez?
I believe that is the first step that I need to do at this point of time, is to go ahead and bid the project for the Dunas and see what is I get, and we'll go from there. How is that?
And then we can, are we sure?
Go ahead.
I know we sure on the $30,000 for that soccer field on the, I guess it would be the east side of Lytle Creek Park. Are we pretty sure?
The west side,
The 10
it's
in
not a
Eureka.
soccer field, it's a park.
Sorry, the west side. Yeah, the west side.
The Eureka. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're pretty sure it's about $30,000.
About $35,000, yes.
Okay, $35,000. You know, this is a park that is used a lot, and it is, even though I'm in the first ward, Lytle Creek Park is the closest park to me. So there is a special place in my heart for that park. And there's been a lot of good that's been done there, and I don't think I see any harm with setting aside that $30,000 for that park on the west side. If the amount is so minimal and it's $30,000, I don't see any harm. That still provides us $200,000 of leverage to go and find that extra funding through a grant, through a federal grant, a state grant, to get that Nunez Park done. So I would like to amend my motion to include that, if everyone was fine with that. Sandra, I know you seconded. Would you be fine with that amendment?
Fine with that one.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so the motion is to amend what Councilman Sanchez said, to include the parking lot at Lytle Creek Park on the Eureka Avenue side. That'll be a parking rehabilitation there on Eureka, much needed. Also, let's not forget the K-rail. The
gates.
The railing at the Eureka parking lot. There's 2 fallen columns that are just. It probably costs $50 a timber to install and repair that. So that's the motion. There's a second by Councilmember Ibarra. Thank you, Councilmember. And if are we clear on that, Ms. City Clerk? You got the motion. You got it all.
Do you want me to repeat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it all.
I can repeat it if you'd like.
Go for it.
Please.
Okay. Request that the balance of $200,000 of the remaining funds from the Meadowbrook Bridge be used as leverage to fully fund the rehabilitation of the Nunez soccer field, and allocate $30,000 and use that amount for the parking lot at Eureka Park.
Eureka Street.
Sorry, Eureka.
And then don't forget the bathrooms, the showers.
The outside showers,
$60,000 showers.
Don't forget that as long as it don't start before the repairs at Nicholson Park.
And I'm sorry, council member, just to be clear, $35,000 on the small parking lot, correct?
On
Not
Eureka.
30,000?
Is it 35,000? Okay,
Yes.
35,000.
Okay.
Okay, Genevieve, you got it?
Yes.
All right. Council members, please, Ms. City Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes, as long as it don't happen before the repairs at Nicholson Park.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Item passes unanimously.
Okay, well, Basine, it's gonna take a while on your issue, but I mean, we get it. We can't stop progress and we're moving forward. Okay. Item number 6 is the code amendment for sidewalk vending. Ms. City Clerk, I ask please that you read into the record the title of ordinance MC 1545.
An ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of, let me start over, sorry. An ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of San Bernardino, California, amending sections 5.30.20, 8.01.010, and 8.01.03 of the San Bernardino Municipal Code, amending the enforcement authority regarding the city's environmental health code.
Okay, thank you, Ms. City Clerk. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approve.
Mayor,
I'll second that.
I have some comments.
I'll second.
The motion for approval by Mulvihill and second by Councilman Charette. Thank you. Councilmember Barr.
Yes, so just to clarify for our public, I know they made several comments about providing education for the street vendors. And I know for a fact that we have invested an amount for CDBG monies to educate entrepreneurs the past 2 years. Maybe Gretel can confirm and give a number of how many people went through that training. It was an 8-week course, and it was provided at no cost to our community members who wanted to start their own business. I just wanted to mention that to the public that made comments that we should invest in education. We have done our part. We may still be doing it. And once again, maybe Mr. Mike Huntley or Gretel can confirm that for the public. Also, I know I had another comment, but that was the main one I wanted to point out to the public that made their statements.
Also had to talk about that cart that they said that wasn't available.
Correct. So just to let our community know, I mean, I spoke to the advocates as well. Some of these vendors street vendors come from LA County. Some are from local in our city. And so how can we make it easier for them to obtain their permits and be able to sell? Because right now we only had 15 in the past year since we passed the ordinance who have obtained a permit. But Ms. Gretel, if you can tell us like how many total we're serviced.
Councilwoman Ibarra and Mayor, I don't know how many of the folks that have been trained through our program are actually vendors, but we do have funds set aside to train entrepreneurs. One of the largest group of folks that come to those trainings are people who are involved in food preparation. So we do have that. We go through the process of how to get your license, how to get your food handler's license, permits, and so on. And we also do them both in English and in Spanish. So and for this coming fiscal year, we do have budgeted additional trainings for small businesses. So we do have a program available.
Excellent. And should I say that in Spanish for our Spanish speakers, Mayor? Is that okay?
Wait, before you do that, can you also talk about the cart that they said that is not available?
Yes, which one's that cart?
A lot of the public speakers said something about a cart that's not available.
I couldn't speak to the equipment that they need. What we typically do is we educate them about the process, about how to get their licenses, and then give them resources if they should need capital to acquire equipment.
And then if I could clarify the equipment also, the equipment itself actually has to be inspected and licensed by the county health department. As part of this code amendment today, that gives us the ability to enforce it, but the overall specifications comes out of the county health department. So we can reach out to them, talk to them more in depth, and try to find out what the issues are associated with equipment, but they are actually licensing other equipment for other food vendors also. It's possible that the type of equipment that the majority of them are using just doesn't comply with current health regulations. So, but staff will reach out to the county health department, find out what the issues are, and try to address that issue and maybe share that information, or potentially maybe fabricators of equipment that would comply.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Councilman Nickel.
Yeah, is there also on the enforcement side, what obligation is there to be registered for sales tax purposes and remittance? And what enforcement is available on that front? I assume they are not remitting sales tax.
No. I mean, our understanding that a majority of these vendors don't have a city business license, aren't licensed to the county, and as such, I would highly doubt that they're actually paying any sales tax.
Well, and I would just like to make sure that on the enforcement front, when we provide them information, that we also provide that information as well.
Sure.
To ensure that they understand their legal obligations to register and to collect and remit that sales tax as well.
Right, and usually when they go through the city's business license process, the city business license division actually does provide information.
Right.
To
I just
them
want to
on
make
that.
sure we aren't telling them they need
Correct.
to get a health
Yep.
permit, and then later they say, "Oh, we didn't know we had to register it for as a business and establish ourselves in terms of
Sure.
the sales
sense.
tax component." I want to make sure we cover all of our bases here. So, and really the intent here isn't to punish or to penalize, but to assist in compliance and to help
Sure.
these individuals become compliant businesses, which I think we all would like. I don't think we want to shut people down, but we want to make sure that everybody is complying with the same standards that all other businesses have to comply with in our community, and that we do so in a reasonable way.
If I may,
All right, council members. Councilmember Barr.
One more comment, Mr. Huntley. I don't know if you still have my email dated April 24th, where I included in there like a quick 1, 2, 3 guideline of how to start your own business. It's something that I had recently obtained from a former employer of mine, and it helped just having simple steps, 1, 2, 3, what to do, where to go, who to call. That would be very helpful for the small business owners that want to get started. If we can do something that small, I've seen the application, it's pretty lengthy in my opinion, and I want to make it as easy as possible for them to get started.
Sure.
So
Okay.
that would
Councilmember Mobiles.
Yes, and just from past experience, in my experiences in Mexico and Central America, this is a public health issue, and it's a serious public health issue. And the whole idea of complying with the health regulations and having the proper equipment is is intertwined together. And so it's from my point of view, it's a serious issue that needs to be looked at.
Councilmember Charette.
I would just simply make the comment that the public health issue is a concern, but my concern really is for the people that are, generally speaking, brick and mortar, that are being impacted by some of this, and they are paying, and they are being inspected, and they are complying. And again, there are rules and regulations for these street vendors, and if they're complying, then I don't think anyone has a problem with that. But if they're not complying, and I think most of them are not, and 2 or 3 of my constituents, businesses in my area, are very concerned with this, and it's also having an impact on the city, on the quality of life, because what is many times left behind after a night of vending and feeding people on the street and setting up tables and chairs and things. And it's just a matter of following the current rules and regulations and complying with those. I'm not interested in shutting anybody down. In fact, I don't think you'll find anybody that's more supportive of economic development than I am. But it's got to be done in a fair way, and we've got to make sure that these people are complying. And it's really that simple. And they are not at this point in time. They just are not. And if they want to comply, we welcome them. If they can't, then we should be shutting them down.
Okay, Ms. City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
I think she left her office.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Okay, the item passes and reflecting Councilmember Ibarra absent from this item.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 7 is a League of California Cities resolution. You've seen it in your backup materials, and if you've done your homework, this is before you. It's to provide Councilmember Mulvihill, our delegate, to cast a vote either for it or against it. Is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? If not, the city clerk.
Yes, well, you know, this, I know it's a discussion to have at the national level, but I thought I'd put in my 2 cents on this. If you're familiar with Section 230, what it does it shields platforms from user content or user created content. And what we might have issues with if something like this passes is that Facebook would then start to police some of the content, and we could have in a dystopian future some sort of thought crimes. So anything that doesn't comply with the general narrative would now be curtailed. What we need to do really is start at the very beginning with our education system. People are vulnerable to bad information when they're poorly educated. That is where we need to start. What we shouldn't be doing is we shouldn't be policing people's ideas. So I would vote against this because, again, what this would force is that those platforms either completely shut down or they start to police people's right to free speech. And we are very defensive when we hear of any sort of authority, the government, the state, the local, the federal government, from curtailing our First Amendment rights. But when we pass legislation like this, what we're doing is we're handing over all the tools to justify these platforms, places like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We give them the rationale to start to really curtail any sort of open and free dialogue that doesn't, again, align with the common narrative. So I would vote against this. So that would be my substitute motion.
Councilmember Sanchez, I actually tend to agree with your line of thought as well, so I'll go ahead and second that.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Yeah, and I respectfully disagree. I think we just celebrated the 19th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks. I happened to be in Washington, D.C. that day. And much of that activity was coordinated and solicited through online channels. And I think whether you communicate in person, whether you communicate in writing, or you communicate using electronic means to solicit criminal behavior, regardless of the means by which you communicate, is not acceptable. And I think we as a country, we've been through many instances in recent history where the internet has been used to solicit criminal activity. And we need to provide law enforcement with the tools to ensure that we can stop that before it actually turns into criminal acts.
So the thing is, this Section 230 doesn't provide immunity for those content providers. What it does is it provides immunity for the platforms. And I'll tell you, the platforms have been irresponsible. I do think that they should be regulated as a utility, just like the water, electrical, and everything else that is considered an essential service here in the country, because they are inclined again to sensationalism, and they do it for their profit because it is very profitable. But what we do here in this case is we are not shielding with Section 230 the content creators. All we're doing is shielding the platform, because if we don't, we then give them good reason to start policing everyone online.
Councilman, are you advocating? Did I hear you correctly that Google and YouTube should be regulated as a
public utility?
As a public utility?
We need to prevent them for the most irresponsible
Okay.
acts that they commit.
All
And
right.
that again is to promote the most sensational
That's fine.
content
I
out
just
there.
want, I just
It
wanted,
is profitable.
I wanted to
No,
hear
no,
you.
no. I
I
know.
wanted
It's
to
not
hear you
controversial.
correctly. I'd love to have lunch and debate you on that.
Oh, we
because I
can. We
think
can.
there's
But look, yeah. But the thing is, again, what is important to note here is that those who commit crimes online are still liable. They can still be dragged
Okay.
into court. They can
I
still
got
go
you.
to jail.
Just
But
a
the
question.
platform-
Just a question. I
Yeah,
got
no, no.
Okay, all right.
That's all. That's all.
All right.
That's all
So
I have
there's
to
a
say.
motion. There's an alternate motion to not support this. All right, City Council, or I'm sorry, City Clerk. The motion by Councilman Sanchez and Councilman Figueroa is to oppose this and vote no. Please call the roll on it. If this fails, by the way, we'll go back to the floor motion and move the floor motion. City Clerk?
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra. Was that a yes? Okay.
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Surratt,
No.
Councilmember Nickel,
No.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
No.
The motion passes 4-3 with Councilmember Surratt, Nickel, and Mulvihill opposing.
So the motion passes, you say? On a 4-3, and I'll veto that just on philosophical differences. That's a very big can of worms, friend.
Yeah.
We
don't want to be on the record for.
No, never on that one. But
I'll move the floor motion.
All right.
Or I think we already have a floor motion.
We have a floor motion.
Yeah.
Ms. City Clerk, call the roll on that.
Just to clarify, did Councilmember Mulvihill, did you second the floor motion?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
No.
Councilmember Ibarra,
No.
Councilmember Figueroa,
No.
Councilmember Surratt,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
No.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
The motion does not pass.
So you don't vote, Mulvihill. You just
yeah.
step back.
Mulvihill,
I'll listen to the conversation. I'll bring back the discussion.
Yeah, I'm sure in front of 480 other cities are going to want to hear our.
Boy,
That's crazy.
that is crazy.
That's not good,
absolutely
folks.
crazy.
It's
That's
not good
really
policy,
not good.
folks.
This
Let
is not
me
good.
just kind of encourage you guys. This is obvious.
Let's move on to the next item. We just voted.
Obviously, the council is really torn here, but it has a lot of support throughout cities in California because of the
Law enforcement
genesis.
needs this.
Law enforcement does need a tool. These are.
Mayor, don't forget, we are San Bernardino, and we're an outlier, so that's okay. That's okay.
I don't want to be that kind of outlier.
Everyone ought to expect this out of us. And then we ask why people don't come here and why people don't do business with us, and this is why. This is exactly why. So y'all take a good look at this, and this is exactly why. And if no one else will say it, I will.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Mulvihill, we ask that you please
Listen to the conversation.
listen to the conversation. That's a good one. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. Moving on to item number, I believe it's 8. It's to introduce the first reading of
Mayor,
campaign
I'd
contributions.
like to resign as alternate.
Okay, well, just don't register as an alternate. That's cool. All right, introduce item number 8. Is there a motion? Motion on item number 8.
I have a question or a little concern.
Go ahead, council member.
It's just the way it's worded, the recommendation. It's saying establishing no campaign contribution limit requirements. I think we should make a verbiage in there that we will be in line with the state recommendations, contribution limits. Instead of saying no, I think we have to mention that we are going to be doing what the state.
So that's your substitute motion, is that right?
Correct.
Ms. Ledoux, you wanted to, yeah, Ms. Kramer.
If I may, council member, if no action is taken, the state regulations go into effect. There's no motion necessary. So, however, if council wants to consider an ordinance that establishes different regulations than are set forth by the state that will go effect in January, then we can modify an ordinance and you can adopt an ordinance. The ordinance that was drafted and discussed on September the 2nd did not set any campaign finance restrictions. So that is certainly up for discussion, but in order for the state regulations to go into effect, you do not need to adopt a motion at all.
Move to table this item. Move to table.
Okay. Sandra,
Second.
is that
I will second Sandra's motion.
okay? Sandra, that's unique. All right, Sandra, what's your motion then?
You just change the verbiage. Instead of saying establishing no campaign contribution limit requirements, you say that establishing the state mandated campaign contribution limits.
Is that $4,700?
$4,700.
Again, if you don't adopt this ordinance, the state will
The
automatically.
state picks up and it's a default, guys.
Right,
Not-
but I
We don't
have
want
it in
to
writing.
put that burden.
Okay.
So Henry Nichols' motion to move to table might be your best option if you.
I'll second that.
No, the
motion.
point here, the point here is that the public wants to hear how we feel about it. And I say that we call for the question.
Yeah, campaign limits.
On what?
Can I,
On Sandra's
There's a mo-
motion.
Well,
perhaps,
is there a motion for Councilman Nichols' motion to table?
I second it.
Oh, okay. All right. So there's a move to table the matter.
That's without.
We'll be voting.
Gotta go to a vote.
Well, that has to go to a vote, and we'll ask our city clerk to please call the roll on the move to table.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
No.
Councilmember Figueroa,
No.
Councilmember Charette, Councilmember Charette,
You're muted,
I'm
Fred.
sorry, no.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard.
Yes.
Motion does not pass.
You didn't ask
Councilmember
me.
Mulvihill.
I'm going to say no. I'll say no.
Wait.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Mulvihill, I'm sorry.
Oh, my God.
No on tabling?
No on tabling.
All right, Miss Rocha, what's the vote tell me?
Okay, so I have council members Ibarra, Figueroa, Charette, and Richard opposing tabling the item.
No, I was there.
No.
I said no also.
If I can, real quick, I have Ibarra, Figueroa, Charette, and Mulvihill voting no to the table. So a 4-3 vote for no to tabling the item.
All right, so the move to
My
table
apologies.
fails, and we are now back for discussion. There's a motion
Well,
by was it Fred?
Voted by Ibarra.
Ibarra, yeah.
Ibarra. Council member, what's your motion again?
Once again, that the ordinance read that we are establishing the state's campaign contribution limit requirements.
4,700.
So to reflect
If they
whatever it
change
is,
every year,
right?
though. It's just as long as it's in writing, it shouldn't be more than a line on our
Well, then
ordinance.
we can do it through a resolution, right? In support of the
Yeah, well,
state's,
that's-
which would be easier.
You can do it by minute motion. You do not need to adopt an ordinance or a resolution. You can simply take a minute motion
Yeah, because we're just adding
to
a little
express
section.
support for
Yes.
adopting the state's regulations that will go into effect.
Well, that's my motion.
No, that was
Ibarra's motion,
that's Ibarra's motion.
All right, then I second.
and I seconded it.
No, Fred. The chair will
Let's vote on
recognize
this.
Fred.
Call a question. Call a
The
question.
chair will recognize Fred's motion
No,
from
it's Ibarra's
Ibarra.
motion, and I seconded it.
I understand that, sir. So it's to support Ibarra's motion. Miss Rocha, guys, you always amaze me. I love you to death, City Council. Your mayor has to laugh every now and then at you. That's right, just directly at you. I love you guys, but
It's an echo from us.
well, it's
Echo from us.
yeah. Well, Genevieve, please. What's the motion? Let's clarify it for the council members.
Councilmember Ibarra, I'm sorry. Can you please clarify your motion for me? I have that you want to adopt the state's regulations.
Motion yes.
Did you unmute yourself?
Sandra, you're muted.
Muted.
Let me unmute myself. Okay. So instead of this section saying establishing the no campaign contribution limit, to read establishing the state's campaign contribution limit requirements. Just change the word no to state.
What if we just say to accept the default limit established by the state? That way, if that changes, then you change. You do not have to take any further action in the future. I understand what you're trying to do, Councilmember Ibarra, kind of stated in the positive, and I think that would be the better motion.
Okay. I was just trying to keep it short and simple. Thank you.
Credit, are you okay with that? All right. Genevieve, you got it?
Yes.
All right, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ibarra, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
No.
Councilmember Charette?
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel?
Yes.
Councilmember Richard?
No.
And Councilmember Mulvihill?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-2.
Okay, item number 10 is public hearing on annexation number 6 to CFD 2019-1. The recommendation is to hold a public hearing. How about this? Let's abbreviate it. 1 through
Missing
6.
Mayor,
Nine?
you skipped one.
9.
Yeah.
Oh,
Item 9.
my bad.
Eh.
Let's back up. Then item number 9, the public hearing of substantial amendment to fiscal year 2021 annual action plan. There are 4 recommendations as part of item number 9. Ms. City Manager.
Actually, Mayor, this is really just a housekeeping matter. We didn't advertise.
I'm sorry. I'm opening the hearing at
Yes.
9:45 p.m. And Ms. City Manager, a quick staff report.
Actually, Mayor, you approved this item several weeks ago. It's just a housekeeping matter. We didn't advertise for public comment long enough. Mike or Gretel could go into that. So we're simply having to bring it back to you after we have advertised for public comment. I don't believe there's been any other changes than what was
Yeah,
originally
you
approved.
enumerated it in the staff report, and I think council members, if you've done your homework, you see it that staff agrees with it and that there was an error.
Correct.
What's
Gretel,
the
Mike,
recommendation?
is that
Well,
correct?
I have one comment before. I just need assurances that the amendment that Henry proposed to this this action plan is reflected in this latest version of the action plan, which is to pull the funding from the
All-Star
homeless
Lodge
conversion.
downtown.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to clarify. All you did was approve, I believe it was $1 million, Gretel?
$1,000,003.
For that type of project. You didn't approve a project. We would still have to bring that back to you in a following meeting. So it's not like those 2 projects were approved, just the source of funding.
Exactly.
Okay.
So those will not be funded without your permission. We would have to come back to you. Okay.
Okay.
Well, and there was clear discontent with the Section B portion of that, which included the downtown All-Star Lodge. I think there was affirmation by the council that they wanted to proceed with Pacific Street because of a recognized Salvation Army and their capacity. But I think there was a complete long discourse regarding some of the All-Star Lodge activities at the downtown. So with that noted,
Yes.
Are there any further questions by council members? If not, I think this is pretty.
Yeah, I think it's item 11. I'm looking at packet page 146. That's the Home Key Motel conversion. So it just says 2 possible locations have been identified. I assume one is still that hotel off of 5th Street.
Those were identified at the time. Obviously, they would have to come back to you, so we would not be, we heard you loud and clear, and staff would not be bringing that one particular hotel back to you. So you're not approving it by this action.
But I thought this funding would be handed over to the county so that it would be to supplement their project.
Right.
Not until you identify a project, and we would have to bring that back to you. This is simply to approve the funding.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, are there any public comment cards, Ms. City Clerk, on this item?
No, there are not.
Okay, closing the hearing at 9:47 p.m. for deliberation action. Do we have a motion?
Move the recommendation.
Second.
All right, Ms. City Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes. Yes.
Member Figueroa, your vote.
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes.
and Councilmember Mobejo.
Yes.
Item passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 10 is a public hearing on annexation number 6 to CFD District 2019-1. So I have a long script, and City Council, if you please indulge me on this one. Public hearing is to consider annexation proceedings and elections for City of San Bernardino CFD number 2019-1 of Maintenance Services annexation number 6. The public hearing is now open at approximately 9:49 p.m. Are there any disclosures from council members? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, do we have proof of publication that these notices as required by law have been given, and do we have a complete file of documents?
Yes.
Are there any written communications on the matter?
No.
Do any council members wish to hear the staff report?
No.
Ms. City Clerk, did you receive any requests to speak from anyone wishing to speak on this matter from the public?
No.
Would the city staff like to make any further comments? I'm seeing no, nods of no. Do any members of the city council have any questions of staff or wish to make any comments before I close this public hearing? No? All right. Has the city clerk received any written protest, Ms. City Clerk?
I received 0 written protest.
Okay, thank you. I now declare this hearing closed, the time approximate being 9:50 p.m. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution of the Mayor and City Council to submit to the qualified electors the question of levying a special tax within the area proposed to be annexed to Community Facilities District 2019-1.
Motion to adopt the resolution.
There's a second by Councilman Nickel. Any further discussion from council members? The city clerk, if we could please have a voice vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes.
and Councilmember Mobejo.
Yes.
Item passes unanimously.
Okay, the resolution that we have just adopted calls for elections within the property to be annexed to CFD 2019-1 to approve such annexation and to authorize the levy of special tax in accordance with the rate and method of apportionment to provide certain services within such property, which is to be held at this time by the city clerk.
Okay, all ballots have been cast in connection with the election for CFD number 2019-1, and the election is now closed. Each of the ballot propositions have been approved by more than 2/3 of the votes cast in the elections for CFD number 2019-1.
Thank you. Having received a certificate of the city clerk certifying the results of the election, I'd entertain a motion, please, to approve this resolution declaring election results for Community Facilities District 2019-1 Maintenance Services Annexation number 6. Is there a motion?
Move to, I'll move.
Second.
Right. Second by Richard. Is there any further discussion from council members? Seeing none, Ms. City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes.
and Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Item passes unanimously.
Okay, at this time, I now ask for a motion to waive further reading and introduce by title only ordinance number MC 1542, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino, amending ordinance MC 1522 and levying special taxes to be collected during fiscal year 2021 to pay the annual cost of the maintenance and servicing of landscaping, lighting, water quality improvements, graffiti streets, sweeping, parks and trail maintenance, a reserve fund for capital replacement and administrative expenses with respect to the City of San Bernardino Community Facilities District number 2019-1 maintenance services. Is there a motion?
Mayor, really quickly, there's a typo on the script and it should be ordinance number 1543.
Move the amended language.
Second.
1523 or 43?
43.
43. Thank you. As noted, council members, there's a motion. I think we had it by Nickel and I don't know who.
Mulvihill. Second.
Mulvihill. Okay, is there any further discussion? No? All right. Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard, and Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Item passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our consent calendar, we'll poll the council members. Councilmember Sanchez.
Item 18, please.
All right. Councilmember Barra. Councilmember Barra, you're muted. Do you have any polls tonight?
No.
Councilmember Figueroa?
None.
Councilmember Charette?
No.
Councilmember Nickel?
None.
Councilmember Richard?
15.
I'm sorry?
Number 15.
Number 15, polled by Councilmember Richard.
I do have a
And
question, Mayor.
item number, I'm sorry, Councilmember Mulvihill?
None tonight.
None tonight. Councilmember Barra?
Yes, just a quick question for,
Second.
sorry.
Go ahead, Councilmember, your quick question.
My quick question on item 12, though, we're approving the minutes for the meeting of April 15.
What's your question?
My question is, how fast can we get the other meetings approved, like their minutes approved? Because we're like about 4 months, we're like 5 months behind on approving minutes.
My intention is to get the office staff so that I'm working slowly on them as I can. But my intention is to get staff in here, as you know, it's just myself and one other full-time employee and a part-time employee. So as we are staff right now, it's very difficult for me to get the minutes out in a timely manner.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
All right, there's a move for balance on Fred Charette and Jim Mulvihill with the second. Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll on the balance.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Richard will go in order of priority on the agenda calendar here. Ms. Richard, you pulled item number 15. Please go ahead.
So first off, I just want to start by thanking our city manager. When I first brought this up, she was acceptable to this and she pulled the council. I want to also thank the council members for getting back to her And I think that this is a first step where we can see that racism is a public health crisis. And I've heard the cry from not just myself and my family, but from the residents in our communities. And I just truly want to thank the council really for recognizing this and recognizing that this is being a problem. And I just don't want us to just talk about it, but what I want us to do is be about it. In other words, recognize that it's a problem and let's do something about it, and let's work hard to make sure that everybody gets the same, afforded the same rights as other people. So I say to the brown and Black community that this is a first step in the city of San Bernardino, and let's work together and let's move forward and let's let progress happen. Thank you.
All right, is that a motion for approval, council member?
That's my move for approval.
Second.
All right, with a second by council members. All right, Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
This is a conversation that we need to continue having, yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes.
and Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Item passes unanimously.
I want to applaud the efforts of Councilmember Richard for bringing this to our attention. This is a critical moment for our community, and we appreciate your leadership, Councilmember Richard, for really drawing attention and highlighting the importance of studying and assessing what our next steps as a city are with inclusion of diversity, and especially in the workplace here at City Hall. We appreciate your leadership on that. Moving on to item number 18. This is pulled by Council Member Sanchez, is that right? Or Fred?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, all right.
No, I pulled it. Yes, so I mean, just for the benefit of the viewing public, can you give us like your little 2-minute spiel on this? And then I'd like to comment on that, kind of riff off of that.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez. So the item before you tonight is actually a rebid of a kind of a downgraded scope. The council had previously approved 11 street segments back in our fiscal year 1920 CIP for rehabilitation. Mr. Alex Kishta did an initial bid on those 11 segments, and unfortunately the construction amount came back almost $1 million higher than the budget that was appropriated for those segments. So we have since that time completed our pavement analysis, our pavement study, and have gone back and taken a look at the segments. What we did with this report is we have removed 3 segments that require full reconstruction. We have kept 8 segments in that will be, I believe, mill and overlay, and Alex can answer any technical questions on that. And what we are asking to do tonight is to go ahead and approve project budget and a total amount of $3,680,000 for those 8 segments that remained in the bid. We are looking to award a construction contract to Mattich of San Bernardino as the lowest bidder. We also need you to approve the carryovers of the budgets from 1920 budgets tonight so that we can move forward with issuing that PO. And then we're asking council to authorize the Director of Finance to reallocate a portion of the funding from the 3 segments that need reconstruction to support those 8 segments. What we will then do in the future is bring those segments that need full reconstruction back as a separate and future CIP project. And so we're open to any questions.
Ms. Jensen, what are the 3 segments? I missed it in the staff report. Which are those 3 segments that are being excluded from tonight?
So they would be Commerce Center Drive west between Hospitality and I think Hospitality to Business Center Drive, East Airport Drive to Commerce Center, that section. Mount Vernon Avenue between 17th and Reese, And then we also had 7th Street between Waterman Avenue and Sierra Way.
I'm trying to see that on my backup. What page on the packet do you?
So if you look at page 461, there's 11 segments listed there. Segments 9, 10, and 11 are the 3 that were omitted from the
Got it.
second
Okay,
page.
because there's going to be a full rebuild of those streets.
The cost of reconstruction, as you know, and Alex can explain in more detail, is much higher
I get it.
than the mill and overlay. So,
And this is I do want to, for our viewing audience and our this is not the only work that we're doing in the city. This is this comes as there's multiple projects going on in the city. Don't rest assured, taxpayers, we're paving more streets. This is just it comes as part of tonight's consent calendar, and so we appreciate it. Council members, any other final questions? If not, is there a motion?
No, yeah. So I would ask of the staff that the sections that were chosen to rehabilitate, especially the last 3, those were done before we received the final results from the assessment, right? The assessment we had paid for. So I would just ask that we take a second look at the updated assessment on the streets and see if maybe you would still go with those 3 rebuilds. And if those assessments maybe indicate that the need is higher for another one of those segments, and I'm going to be honest, it's for the one in my district. I think 7th Street is in better shape than many of the streets in my district. So I would ask that maybe you consider another street that has a higher need. So if you guys could take a look at the newest assessment and do that, I'd be fine with approving this tonight. Can I get assurances that that's going to be the case?
Absolutely.
Good. Then I will make the motion to approve this.
Councilmember Barra.
Can I make a substitute motion that we table it until we see that report? Because as my colleague pointed out, some of the streets are in better conditions than others. I'd like to see where Virginia is in the assessment. Highland Avenue off the 215, 259. For example, I would like to see that assessment before we go ahead and approve this, if my colleagues are okay.
Any harm in waiting?
If I may, Mayor and Council, so this, a lot of time, staff time has gone into not one, but bidding these segments twice now.
Yep, let's go forward, guys. We got to do it.
We could absolutely, Council Member Ibarra would be happy to take a look at specific streets and in that assessment. And when we come back with our next piece, make sure that we take a look at incorporating those.
Okay, and then my other question, Ms. Jensen, you have here Crestview Avenue between Baseline and 20th. I thought we had already budgeted for that one to get done. Is there a reason they're being lumped with all of these other streets?
I believe that this is the first time, and maybe Alex can help me. I think this is the project budget that was budgeted initially, right, Alex?
It was budgeted last year.
That is all of these. I'm sorry. All of these streets have been budgeted last year, but the only thing that is after we bid it the first time, it was high, and then we just received the assessment for our streets. So when we looked at the assessment, we found that these 2 segments was called for reconstruction, which is the reason why they came up high in bid. So we eliminated them. But Crestview has been in since last year, yes, and that is one of the streets going to be done as part of this project.
This
I would
is
ask
the
just for those 3. The 3
This
that
is
aren't
the fiscal year 1920. Sorry, CIP project.
The only streets, if you look at your package page 461, the 9, 10, and 11, as Chris mentioned, is the one that's eliminated from last. But we use the funding to supplement for the other segments, so we can make up to the $3 million we have for that project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
I move to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Ms. City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard,
Yes.
and Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Item passes unanimously.
Thank you, council.
Thank you very much. This is the opportunity. The chair will recognize Councilmember Barra. Go ahead. You had, we had a lot of comments prior, and I appreciate council members popping off and telling us their desires. Please, what's your
motion?
Yeah, what's your item to be referred, or how can we help the council here reestablish rules of?
Well, sure. If I can have the support from our colleagues, I'll make a motion that we discuss at maybe the next council meeting the rules for reading any emails that we get from our constituents.
Put it on the agenda. Yeah.
Put it on the next one if possible. Something.
Yeah, if I may add, on April 4th, 2018, we enacted ordinance number 1438 that amended our municipal code and added section 2.58.110 that related to public participation in meetings, that staff would bring back to the council any changes in regard to public comment for approval. It's also consistent with our city charter, section 309, that the council shall establish by ordinance the rules of order for conduct of proceedings by the council that include public comment and the procedure for public comment. It appears we are not abiding by that now, and we need to make sure that the council is given any changes to the public comment process prior to them being posted on our agenda. We've already acted on this 2 years ago, so I don't know how this happened, but we need to comply with both our charter and our ordinances.
If I can comment, I agree with you, Henry, by the way, but I think this largely had to do with the COVID issue when we started having people coming in and we started having recordings and readings. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anything has really been set in stone as to how we go about it.
I think any change in the process or the procedure of public comment needs to be brought to the council. And that's what the ordinance established and our charter actually establishes as well.
And that all goes.
It's got to come to the council.
That all goes along with something that we've been wanting to have and need to have, and this is going to fall under the purview of our new city manager, a council workshop where we discuss a lot of these items and how we operate and how we do things. And I agree, it's in the charter and all that, but
I would reference the April 4th, 2018 agenda item that established that ordinance, so we can all be reminded of the discussions we've already had on this matter and get back to the rules that we've already established regarding public comment.
I don't disagree with that.
I agree. You know, Councilmember Nickel and Charette, I agree with what you guys are saying, but I also want to go back to council members' actions. We talked about that a while ago, and we need to talk about what we do. We have to follow rules and regulations also, and it just really just.
Yeah, we can't violate our own ordinances or
no, we cannot. I get what you're saying, Henry, but I understand that
we got to put a stop to that immediately.
Hold on, Henry, let her talk. You're out of order.
You have to allow. This is a business meeting, and you have to allow other people to speak. You cannot just talk over everybody. You cannot just cut people off.
There are rules.
And there are rules and regulations. So therefore, I'm asking that we revisit the rules of the council members so that we can follow the rules that we set forth. Like
we're violating the law. We need to put a stop to that conduct immediately.
Henry, I'm not talking about the public comment. What I am expressing is how we act.
Yeah. When somebody violates the rules, whether it's staff or a council member, we have to put a stop to it immediately.
Henry, let's be polite to one another and allow our council member. She's recognized right now to talk. Mr. Nickel, let's allow your colleague to finish her statement.
One of the things that Councilmember Charette said is that he did not want anybody to think that we did not have to follow rules. we have to follow rules also. And so if we want any of our constituents to listen to us, we have to listen to each other. So I just ask that we bring that back to the council and we talk about the council members' rules and how we conduct business in a meeting.
And I want to find out who changed the language.
If I may, I think that Genevieve would be happy to bring something back to you and give you the history, but I think Councilmember Richard pointed out, or no, it was Fred pointed out, that a lot of this changed during COVID. We had to quickly react. So
It's changed in the last 2 meetings.
I think we can fix it, but I don't think we need to argue about it, but I don't think anything was done intentionally.
Okay, something changed in the last 2 meetings. That language was added. Who added it? And why wasn't the council advised according to our existing ordinances and our charter?
Well, one of the things that we did was we relinquished a lot of our control in March. Yeah, we did, Henry, when we afforded
not on
hold on
our agenda.
Hold on. When we allowed and afforded the city manager to act in response to COVID.
Not to change the ordinances.
We designated her the impacts of COVID, allowed her to do a lot of that. So
the city manager changed the language?
I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that we afforded her a lot of powers in reaction and response to the day-to-day operations afforded to her by the charter, which you frankly advocate.
I want to figure out why this language had to be inserted because
that's fine. We can do that, Henry. Yeah. But we were responding to a national pandemic and we afforded her a lot of powers, especially in meetings and Zoom and all these sorts. And so we can find those out and there's not a problem. I don't think there's any objections to that. So Councilmember Barra, we hear you and there's a second. Are there any objections to that? I think we can talk about it. I just want to remind council members to remain level-headed and cool. I mean, these are important issues for our community, but the real pressing issues aren't these issues. We have a calendar to really move forward and we have a lot of stuff before us. And so I ask that we respect each other, that we remain committed to our policies of treating others with respect. And there's always an opportunity for us to provide some item like right now, items to be referred to committee. I wasn't ignoring you guys. I wasn't trying to stifle a conversation. It's just, let's try to follow that. And we appreciate you council members for abiding by that and really respecting one another and our city. So with that, council members, thank you for tonight. Thank you.
We have some items.
Yes,
Mayor,
go ahead.
I just want to take a moment of silence. We had
Let's do this. We'll do a moment of silence before that because it's going to be awkward. Councilman Charette, do you have anything, sir? You had your raised hand.
Yeah, I think this is fairly simple, and I guess with Rob coming on, it'll be under his responsibility. Years ago on the agenda, each item would indicate which ward is most impacted. For example, I'm just looking at number 5, for example, I'm looking at. It says Meadowbrook Insurance Claim Funds. And that really is related to Ward 1. And it just said that, and it just gave us all kind of a heads up what's going on in our ward or in someone's ward, and it was easy to identify. So if that can be done again, I've mentioned that, I think, in passing at least.
Yeah, you have brought that to my attention, and I neglected to give it to Genevieve's attention. It is in this.
Hey, listen, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus.
I know.
And so I'm just taking this opportunity to see if we can implement that again. And then at the same time, and this would be real help to me personally, maybe others as well, but I am on a board where I have an agenda that says the items that we're happening to discuss, again, for example, item number 5 happens to show up in packet pages 422 through 563, just for example. And if we could just put the page numbers of the packet on the items, it makes it easy, at least on my laptop, to go directly to them when I'm trying to and not have to scroll through or what have you. So it's just a request. If it's easy to do, let's do it. If it's a lot of work, do it anyway.
I do have a couple items, Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to, whether it's the next meeting or sometime in the near future, put on discussion sunshine ordinance related to campaign contributions and any actions that we as council members take that may benefit individuals or organizations that have donated politically to our campaigns, perhaps within the last year or so. I know that some of my colleagues probably have some of their own ideas on what that would look like, but I think we do need to have a discussion. I think certainly in the context of campaign contribution limits being enacted the first part of next year, I think it would be an appropriate time to also enact some type of a sunshine ordinance that ensures that the public understands who's contributing to our campaigns, or at least in the context of the decisions we're making, in some type of a process of disclosure. So if we could have that discussion.
I would be fine with that as long as it's, I would push that we do this by the second council, the second council meeting in December. Would you be fine with that?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we get it on the radar. I think it's a good time to have that conversation.
Absolutely.
And then also, I know that we're going to be getting Miss City Manager and Miss City Attorney on the cannabis guidelines. Do we know when that item may be coming back to us?
I can just offer to you that I had a meeting today with Mr. Huntley and his staff. We have put together a timeline to bring those items to you. At the next meeting, we will have the process integrity ordinance and the resolution that was moved by staff together with the guidelines for the transitions. We will then follow that at the following meeting with the relocation and forfeiture timeline ordinance, and then finally give to you the new application guidelines. So we've had those discussions. We have a meeting set with our new city manager, Mr. Field, because we also want to make sure that he's fully briefed. It will be under his leadership that we implement those new rules. So we thought in fairness, we should give him an opportunity to review them. But we are working on it, and we have set timelines that we're going to meet with him on.
I know we have people in the wings that are waiting on this. So
yeah, and
I do have an item that maybe I can talk to you offline, the city attorney, but that's an item that we may need to bring up as well.
Let's do that. All right.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to add anything? Oh, Councilmember Barra, go ahead.
Yes, it was just brought to my attention that Angie Ibarra, not related to me, Guevara, Angie G, also her other name, she recently passed away. She's been in the music scene for over 50 years in the Inland Empire. She was born in Riverside, raised in our city. And so with that said, I'd like to hold a moment of silence for her, since she was a part of our community for most of her lifetime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, council members, and thank you again to our city council and our staff. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.